A pleasant good morning to the members of Parliament, support staff, TV viewers, radio listeners, and those viewing via social media and members of the media. Welcome to this continuation of the Central Committee meeting number 13 of today, December 16, 2021. I would like to give a special welcome to the Prime Minister, Minister of General Affairs, Ms. Silvera Jacobs, and her support staff. We've established a quorum of 8 members. Please let's stand for a moment of silence. I've received notice of lateness from MP Rayon Peterson and MP Rolando Bryson, and a notice of absence from MP William Marlin. Is there any member of Parliament that wishes to have the floor for notification? I see MP Christophe Emmanuel. You have the floor.
Madam Chair Lady, thank you very much, and good morning to you. Good morning to Ms. Gibbs, the Honorable Right Prime Minister, and her support staff. Good morning, my honorable colleagues. Good morning to each and every one of us and the people of St. Martin, via whichever means you're watching us here today. Good morning, good day to everyone. Madam Chair Lady, I've taken notice of sort of a little issue, what we are having pertaining to Parliament. So yesterday I was trying to gather with my team so we could go over all the questions and answers that we have received thus far. And in particular, we realized that on the questions and answering from Minister of Health, it seems a bit not, how should I put it, on the live of the Parliament live. Yeah, so probably it was corrupted, and we couldn't get it. So when I contact Alvin and the other individuals, so we could get the information, he said that the video is not uploading, but the voice is. But by the time it was done and then for it to be uploaded, it was all after 11. I have a proposal, if it's possible, just for us to go back to the Facebook Live that we used to have before, because when that was done, all the information was there, and you could get it, grab it, save it, and stuff and things like that, just for the budget. I don't know how you guys want to do it or the procedure, but we are losing the information. It's hard for us to get back the information when it's done and when it's all said. At the end of the day, it's just the information we want to keep, even for the record, and we are not getting it. So that's one part of, you can say, because I have another notification. Yeah,
I'll answer you right now. As you know, it has been a presidium decision to pull back on the Facebook because of the dinosaur equipments that we have right now, and it always having to take an adjournment because of technical issues and not connecting. I would have to then go back again in a presidium meeting to do that. I was trying to get a hold of MP William Marlin, but as you know, he's not here, and also MP Vigilani is not in the building either. He signed in, but he's not in the building. So I would have to have a discussion with Presidium to decide that. Else I would have done it prior to this. But it has our attention, and then we'll get back to the members of Parliament on that. For now, the information is being uploaded as voice only, and that's important. That at least you can hear the questions that was posed and answers by members of Parliament and the ministers.
Okay.
Yes?
I guess I'll have to work. On a different note, though, Madam Chair, I want to highlight something. And I'm happy that the Prime Minister is here too as well, because I think the Office of the Prime Minister did an excellent job with the statement that they put out, and also post-production and stuff. Madam Chair, it's a serious issue, and one keeps saying all the time, why lament on it so much? Nonetheless, I know a lot of people is sort of disheartened, they're angry, they're upset with this whole thing with Miss World. But Madam Chair, amidst that all, I want to put up the picture of these two sisters, the Ellis sisters. I think Ellis, yeah, thank you very much, Prime Minister, Madam Chair. I think we need to now focus or change the attention a bit. We ain't leaving it slide, and we ain't leaving Miss Wall slide, because we'll come back to her. But for right now, Madam Chair Lady, I think we need to give acknowledgement and say, I can't even find words to express how I felt when it was sent to me last night and say, Chris, Now you should focus on this. And I'm not taking nothing away from the government. I think they themselves are going to do what they're going to do in terms of recognizing these young ladies. But these are two young sisters, young ladies, St. Martiners, if you please, who speak like us, sound like us, look like us, and got last names like us. Right now in Dubai, Madam Chair Lady, Dubai, they have made the finals. Abu Dhabi, sorry. They have made the finals in their swim meet. And I know they should be close to the Honorable Prime Minister as well, Madam Chair Lady. And it's a reason why I say I'm going to do it this morning, because I know it's going to touch her. Because her son was involved in swimming. Her son was involved in swimming, doing very well in swimming too as well. And look at it this way. Yes, we know the pageant is taking place today, the 16th, but their swim meet is taking place today as well, the 16th. So I'm saying let us sort of switch our attention for now to the positive and the brightness of these young ladies and say and focus on the great work that they are doing representing our country, St. Martin. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. I see next on the speakers list for notification is MP Sarah Westcott-Williams. You have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Thank you for the opportunity, and a good morning to you, a good morning to my colleagues, a good morning to all persons tuned in to the continuation of this Central Committee meeting in which we have been and continue to debate the draft budget 2022. Madam Chair Lady, allow me during notifications to firstly support the request of MP Christophe Emmanuel, as I too have queried the chairperson of Parliament regarding this issue of moving from Facebook Live to the live stream, and it's not as if that has gone without its own issues. We have been having issues with the live stream, Parliament live stream. However, Madam Chair Lady, I think cardinal to that point is, of course, the interaction. In fact, when I highlighted this issue before, I referred to Parliament's own statement regarding going live on Facebook, and that was for the interaction, to allow greater participation. So I look forward to hearing, and hopefully it will be a positive response from the Presidium to go back, and whether it's and that we have both streams, but not one or the other. So I look forward to that response, and I am sure, Madam Chair Lady, that you will seek that response for Parliament. Madam Chair Lady, I want to use this opportunity to extend to the children and the grandchildren and the entire family and circle of friends of the late Georgina Rohan. Georgina, in my humble opinion, can be considered an icon on St. Martin. And when I say St. Martin, maybe I should say St. Martin, because it's actually both sides of the island. Madam Chair Lady, I am sure you, as many of my colleagues, would fondly remember Miss Georgina Rohan, along with her young groups, coming to this side of St. Martin for any celebration that we might have had. And so today, as we mourn her loss, I want to express words of gratitude for the many lives, young lives and others, that she has touched, and wish the family, friends, and her hometown of French Quarter much strength during this time. Madam Chair Lady, the other matter has been raised by, another matter that has been raised by my colleague who spoke before me, is the matter of the Miss World St. Martin. And yes, many have issued public statements, including the Prime Minister on behalf of the government of St. Martin. However, Madam Chair Lady, what I would like the Prime Minister to briefly go into this morning regarding that matter is what have these statements yielded? What is there? Has there been any reaction, whether from the local pageant holder, whether from the international Miss World organization? As my colleague Emmanuel indicated, this pageant is going to take place this evening, 7 p.m. And so I would like to know, has there been any response, any official reaction by St. Martin? So fine, we have all said how we feel about it, and my question would be, what now? Because, Madam Chair Lady, while I totally agree, and I've stated this publicly as well, that we have so many positive young persons, role models to highlight, which we should be doing on a continuous basis, I think we need to understand where we're at with this particular issue of the seemingly possible thing to happen, that someone can decide, anyone can decide they're representing St. Martin, put up the flag, and and say, I am representing St. Martin, and there's no issue in terms of that was the intention. I mean, the Netherlands is represented as well, France is represented, Guadeloupe is represented, Curacao, and I could go on and on for the 90 plus participants in this pageant. But so what is St. Martin specifically going to do to address this? I look at, no, don't let me put it that way. I was going to say I look at our acting SG and have taken note, of course, of her sister, but don't let me make it that personal link to our SG, but rather saying that we have Miss Gibbs, for example, who will be participating in the Miss Global, and I wouldn't like this to in no way or fashion rub off on that pageant. So I just want to make sure, where do we cut this thing off and say, well, it happened, we can't change that, but at least say, this cannot happen again. And then, Madam Chair Lady, with technology being what it is, I think in our next discussion regarding, for example, the rules of order or any other discussion, faction leaders, in fact, the whole parliament, as far as I'm concerned, I think we need to decide how members of parliament can use the technology available here in parliament. I'm talking specifically about putting up whether it be pictures or documents, on the screen for public viewing. So, sorry. Yes, so that we understand in what context, when, how long, etc. When do we give it through to Alvin? Those kind of things. I think it's important that we establish some type of parameters in terms of how we, as Parliament, of course, government has been using it and to their advantage. I think Parliament should be able to, but I'm just saying we should have the parameters, what, how long, and those kind of things. Madam Chair Lady, I think for notifications, I would want to leave it here, and I thank you.
Thank you, MP Westcott. Your notifications and suggestions are duly noted. Is there any other member of Parliament that would like to have the floor for notifications? I see no need. Then let's go over then to the agenda point for this meeting. Ontwerplandsverordening tot vaststelling van de vergroting van Land Sint Maarten voor de dienstjaar 2022. Landsverordening begroting 2022, zitjaar 2021 tot en met 2022, 152. IS 352, 2021 tot en met 2022, datum 8 december 2021. In English, National Ordinance stipulating the budget for Country St. Martin for the service year 2021. National Ordinance Budget 2022. Parliament Year 2021 until 2022, number 152. Also under IS 352 parliamentary year 2021-2022, dated 8th of December 2021. We go over to the agenda point. Parliament received the national ordinance stipulating the budget of the country St. Martin for 2022 on December 8, 2021. All members have received a copy of the draft national ordinance, a hard copy, and a digital link via the email and the P drive. The budget of 2022 is also available on the website, which is www.sxmparliament.org. On Monday, December 13th, a general introduction on the draft national ordinance stipulating the budget of the country for the year 2022 was given by the Minister of Finance, and members of Parliament were given the opportunity to pose questions to the Minister. The meeting was then adjourned to allow the Minister time to prepare the answers to the questions posed by the members of Parliament. This meeting was reconvened on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021, during which the Minister of ECYS, the Minister of TIAT, the Minister of Justice answered questions that was posed concerning the national ordinance. And the Minister of VSA was not also noted in here, but I must say that as well. This meeting was then adjourned to allow the ministers time to prepare the answers to the questions posed by the members of Parliament. Today's meeting is a continuation of the meeting which was adjourned on Tuesday, December 14, 2021. Today, the meeting will continue with each minister providing answers to the questions posed by the members of Parliament to their respective ministry. The sequence in which today's meeting will be answered is the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, and the Minister of Finance. Those are the three ministers that still have to return with answers in the first round. It is proposed that a minister will return a maximum of 2 times to answer questions that was posed regarding their ministry. The members will also be given an opportunity to pose clarifications and questions if necessary. I would like to now give the floor to the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Ms. Silvera Jacobs, to answer the questions posed by the Member of Parliament. Prime Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to the members of Parliament and the support staff. Good morning to my support staff, my SG of General Affairs, and Cabinet staff here with me, as well as all the staff of the Secretariat and others within the ministry who will be following this broadcast for the purpose of ensuring that we can respond timely to the questions of the members of Parliament. On behalf of government, I would also like to add the condolences brought forth here in the House of Parliament to those mourning the loss of loved ones, colleagues, and friends, but most specifically to Ms. Georgina Rohan, as has been brought forward, but also to those of Mr. Arturo Lugis, Ms. Lona Gomes, as well as Mr. George Richardson. Especially during this time of celebration, Madam Chair, it is a very difficult time. It is always difficult to lose loved ones, but especially now, in the midst of a time that you are in a time of cheer and joy, to lose a loved one is very, very difficult. So our prayers are with you all. I would also at this time, Madam Chair, prior to starting the responses, take the time to thank the members of Parliament for their expressions of support for our local athletes, artists, professionals even, both here and abroad. I think what we as government have to ensure is to announce periodically where the platforms are that our St. Martin people can see and recognize those of us out in the diaspora as well as home doing an excellent job. And for that, I add my congratulations to the hard work of Tatiana and Niobe Illis. They have, as MP Emmanuel mentioned, were swimming at the same time that my son competed up until he left St. Martin, where they were all in the top of their ranks as swimmers on St. Martin, traveled abroad, went to Carifta Games and the like. And so I am very happy to see that they continue to pursue their dreams. This is not the first time they've represented. Last year also, It looks as if we are doing a lot better this year in terms of where they will land in the finals. And so I asked the people of St. Martin to continue. They've also posted the websites of the races, of the swim meet, and so St. Martin stands behind them. We've also had Kyle Richards, who was part of the Kaiser University soccer team, football team, like we call it here in St. Martin, but they call it soccer, a St. Martin phenom in soccer, baseball, and others, also in the group of, let's call it, my children. And so it's very easy to see that information and share it. But Madam Chair, what our biggest challenges is that that information is not necessarily always shared with the government of St. Martin. So via this platform, I'd like to encourage those who are out there to forward their achievements. Those that are with organizations, the organizations share that. But sometimes if a parent, I know, for instance, sports scholarships are given as well for workshops, etc., and they go out there, they get noticed, and they are doing well. We also have a photographer, Lisandro Suriel, who has been getting a lot of acclaim as well internationally. And so I can go on. And I am very, very happy that there is an interest in this country to promote the good that is being done by our people. Because when we do that, we can then turn the tide and give the attention where it belongs. Which does not say that the press statement that was issued should not receive any attention, and I take note also that questions were asked regarding to that, and I do believe the Minister of ECYS did answer some of that, but I can say that besides issuing a press statement, a letter was sent to the organizers. We have not received a response to date, and we will continue to follow up on that. Further research is also being done into the gentleman that utilized a license who was not from St. Martin to be able to register the young lady. So it is unfortunate that she's the one in the highlight, in the spotlight, as being the one acting out of turn, but she was put forth by someone. It is not authorized from St. Martin, and so the organization has been informed that this candidate does not have the endorsement of St. Martin's government. I also back-checked and double-checked with the French government, the collectivité. Also, none, not even the tourist department, culture department, had any knowledge of the candidate. And also, if that had been the case, going through their course, that person would have had to go to France to compete, and then via France, the winner would have been selected to represent France, not represent Saint Martin. So it is clear that there has been a serious discrepancy, and some may say it's not the first time, but definitely in today's technology, those things won't go unnoticed. And as it received the attention it did, it has been dealt with, and we will continue to communicate with the organizers to ensure that their vetting process is, let's call it, tighter. Because in essence, if the St. Martin delegation did not put forth someone, it should not be acceptable that that person would then be able to be under the St. Martin flag. So that is being dealt with, and as I mentioned in the press statement, publication of the procedures to be able to represent St. Martin will be made much more public so that any and all organizations, license holders, etc., would know through which venue they have to pass to be able to say they are representing St. Martin. Via sports, it is already quite strictly regulated that it must be the federation giving that sanction, and then government would then sign on. We have seen also in the past in social media that persons have been, they've touted these persons going out, but those persons did not go out via the association or the federation, and as such were not official representatives of St. Martin. But of course, if people do well, we tend to want to rejoice anyway. But officially, we cannot continue to do so. We are growing as a country, and we must take those responsibilities, and we will, as government, ensure that it is properly publicized how the process goes to be endorsed as a candidate or representative of St. Martin in any international event. With that being said, Madam Chair, allow me now to address questions that have been posed by members of Parliament via the Minister of Finance at the beginning of this Central Committee meeting for the handling of the legislation for the 2022 budget. From MP Westcott, I have in 2022, it was stated that 21 had 68 vacancies that were filled, whether this is correct, and what is to be filled for 2022, whether further elucidation can be given. I really wish that I had been able to put up some information at this time, but arriving a bit late, etc., I'm not going to stress with it because it's an overview which can be forwarded in any case. The information is available. Some of it we were still getting confirmed of as I came in because several ministries had to still update. But I can give you an update of the Ministry of General Affairs. We have had, under the Department of Communications, 2 persons in 2021. Under P&O, we have had 3, Facility Services 3, ICT 3.
Sorry, Prime Minister, I here to interject. I want to ask the indulgence of the chair lady. Can the Prime Minister indicate whether this information will be provided
That's what I was trying to.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
She's
In
gonna-
writing would have been my question. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I did mention that it can be forwarded in writing as well. But the overview basically shows per ministry how many new persons were hired over 2021 and what's in process that will be finalized in 2022. So I was by Public Service Center has 1 new hire, Civil Registry 3, and Foreign Affairs 1. Furthermore, I can mention that there have been, in my latest update, 21 resignations in total on own request from the organization from August 2020 up until present, and the information of the Ministry of Justice is not included in this. Also, in terms of, this is the same breakdown of the 21? So that is from General Affairs 4, VSA 7, TEAT, Department of Statistics 2, Finance, Inspectorate of Taxes 2, and 2 others, so 4, Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports 3, and the Department of the Ministry of Rome 2. So there are, yes, over, I think we had counted about 71 in total across ministries, even though 68 were mentioned. When we compiled it from P&O, there were 71 hired, and as we can tell here, 21 resignations over that period of time. E-governance, what is being prepared? As earlier stated, the implementation of the Digital Government Transformation Project is slated for implementation in the first quarter of 2022. From an e-governance perspective, the enterprise architecture is currently being prepared, which entails the design or the architecture of systems, data flow, business processes, and interoperability between the systems required for improved efficiency between departments and services. Also being prepared is the legislative review, which entails a review of what legislation would require amendment to be able to support the initiatives under the e-government project or other ICT initiatives. Finally, the digital strategy and roadmap are being developed, and it is the intention that once that roadmap is completed with all the timelines, that this document then secures a consensus between the needed consensus between ministries, as this strategy is significant for the success of the project. So once we have that, we would be able to share this with the members of Parliament. As it relates to the salary scale and cost of living realities, what about the civil servants' cost of living realities right now? Indeed, this also has the concern of our government, not just the civil servants, but the entire island, as a matter of fact. So we have, as a result, requested a cost of living study to be done via the SER, so that it can be assessed across the board. Unfortunately, we have not received that report as yet, and they are still working on the necessary data to be able to finalize that. So that is a work in progress. We wouldn't be able to make a statement unequivocally without knowing exactly what that is. But it has the attention of government, and in terms of the cost of living realities that we're all facing, that is the main reason we have done our best not to touch the salaries of our civil servants. The legislative agenda for the execution of the legislation in country packages has 650,000 guilders earmarked. This was another question for the agreement with the University of Curacao. The Member of Parliament asks whether an overview could be given of this, how this will be executed, and what TWO is doing for the other ministries to prepare legislations. The 650,000 that was mentioned is on the budget of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, and it's based on their dienovereenkomst. What's the English for that? Yes, service level agreements. Thank you. So for a better understanding, the Ministry of ECYS would have to elaborate on that, because as you know, or may know, I think I mentioned this before in the discussion on the country packages, some of these SLAs, dienovereenkomst, were ongoing long before the country packages came into being. So they were already being worked out, and then they were lumped in. So this is an ongoing collaboration between the Ministry of OCW in the Netherlands and the Education, Culture, Youth and Sport Ministry in St. Martin. What I can update, and I'm sure I did also when we had our meeting on the country packages, is that the B4.1 measure of the country package is to strengthen the legal capacity within government. That would be then more across the board. It's an integrated, detailed research proposal to develop and implement and improve the quality, effectiveness, and capacity of government apparatus. So during that November meeting, the plan of approach is aimed to facilitate temporary strengthening of the legislative capacity in St. Martin, Aruba, and Curacao by means of a legislative pool, specifically to strengthen the capacity needed to implement the reforms and the developments under the country package. Attention is also paid to securing knowledge in the countries after the end of the process. So that has received our very keen attention, that is built into whatever process is developed, that for the long term we would see the strengthening in our legislative, say, pool right here on the island. The plan of approach is currently being drafted, and the deadline, as mentioned in that country package, is April of 2022. So by then we will know a bit more. I go now, Madam Chair, to the questions of MP Bonkamper, who asked about post-NV debts to Curacao and Aruba. His question related to the outstanding financial commitments and whether it has been or any indication how this can be solved. He referred to page 66 of the budget and asked what the plans were to address the situation. The debts to Post Curacao and Post Aruba and Seapost have accumulated over a period of several years to the tune of about 3 million guilders. PSS NV has made arrangements with Post Aruba and Seapost to clear the debt in 3 years. In return, the government and Post NV have come to an agreement where government will provide some financial support to PSS to assist in clearing up its debt. And even though they have added several services to its list and are currently operational and running based on their new and innovative ways of bringing funds to their operation, their debts remain in arrears. So as such, a financial injection from the government is necessary for them to continue and be able to resume the necessary services with the two mentioned creditors. The following question related to the Rampen funds, which has not started yet. Where will the 2.7 million go and how much is projected for next year? Definitely, we know that we need to build up a disaster fund to be able to aid in disasters, unexpected disasters as they occur. We sit in a hurricane belt and we know the cost that can come with that. Being in a deficit does not help. The fund has been created as a financial buffer for emergency response in event of a disaster. On the general affairs, it is budgeted at 2.4 million for 2022. The idea was that we would accrue what wasn't used this year and save it, and so we're working together with the Ministry of Finance on initiatives to establish a fund by national ordinance. An update will be provided in Q2 of 2022 on this aspect, so it is also a work in progress. On the B8 measure, questions were asked regarding critical vacancies, whether the CFT advised that it was top-heavy. Does this mean that the amount of civil servants must be lowered or sent home? Are we above the limit? We are hiring 68 persons. Indeed, I believe I answered that question in answering MP Westcott, but I think we've come to Parliament more than once and mentioned that we are understaffed. And that's why we also disagreed with the measure that had been forced in terms of the 12.5%. If you cut your personnel costs by 12.5%, currently that does not stop you from, or should not stop you from being able to hire the necessary human resource you need to be able to execute. And I think the Netherlands have become quite cognizant of the need for human resources. So we are continuing to fill those vacancies. And as more staff is needed and budget amendments can be made, then that will be done as well. So as I mentioned, we did have the 68 new hires or 71 new hires, but also 21 departures. So you're still in a deficit, basically, and still in the process of hiring as we speak. And some of the vacancies, what wasn't brought forth in the data, so that would need some more time, is where some of the vacancies were vacancies that were budget neutral. So it may not have impacted the budget in that regard. So persons that left that were refilled then doesn't impact your budget or change the budget in any way. Regional cooperation, the MP mentioned Parlatino, dropping Parlatino and looking at CARICOM and making monies available for such. He's asking where it can be found in the budget and based on pleas made by Parliament in the past. The budget for membership to CARICOM, Madam Chair, was allocated to the Davy Bay Directorate of Foreign Relations. As negotiations with CARICOM are ongoing, the budget for membership is not necessary at this point. So it's still an ongoing situation, and then once we have achieved the membership necessary, then we will be able to budget for that. In terms of general regional cooperation, the budget for the department will need to be amended as the financial position of government improves, which can then facilitate the increased ambitions of this government to make more connections within the region, which always requires some level of membership fees. Regarding the Coho project, is there any indication how much is coming to St. Martin? How much is St. Martin standing to gain for investment in the country packages, stimulus, retraining of people? At this time, any and all matters related to the financing is still unknown. No one can say at this point how much we will gain in numbers, in finance, like looking at a bottom line. It is solely dependent on this time, or it is dependent on many other factors. This is a new exercise also for the Netherlands, so the result of which we won't know. The proof will be in the pudding. We have insisted from the onset, however, for more of a structure for development of programs that the World Bank has, and not the construct that it is moving forward with now. However, in the meantime, we have agreed with this process and are moving forward with it and trying to make it work in the best interest of St. Martin, as many of the reforms that were mentioned, were already within our scope And if we can get the necessary financing and human resource support to do so over a shorter period of time, then we will be able to achieve those faster than if we had only had our budget and our human resources. So in that vein, we're looking at the positives that can come out of it, Madam Chair, through you to the Member of Parliament. And as we move forward out of the planning and preparation phase into more execution, it will become clearer as to the costs and the investments made in St. Martin, as well as the other countries. The following question related to survival possibilities for Waynear for 2022, risk effects, and for the government, including worst case scenario of the $3 million. And he also asked questions related to collateral being given to a lender. Madam Chair Lady, the Waynear Company presented to the honorable members of Parliament their financial position and their vision for the company going forward on October 7th of this year, 2 months ago. Mr. Grayo explained that the 2021 financials demonstrated the resilience of the company and the team. Quarter 4 is already showing vast improvements, and their prognosis for the winter season remains quite optimistic, although the regional aviation is highly dependent on the realities of developments as a result of the pandemic and the protocol uncertainties, which continue to challenge aviation industry up to today. In response to the second half of the question, the Council of Ministers has asked Waynear to provide an updated response, and this will be provided with your indulgence, Madam Chair, in writing. The following question related to loan of PGIA, which they will have to take for the possible inflation regarding the airport project. What consequences can this have for the government's debt ratio, seeing they must also guarantee the loan? According to the grant agreement signed by government and PGIA, the airport will repay the $92 million, previously $72 million of July 14, 2021. We allocated another $20 million in additional financing via the trust fund to the government of St. Martin. So they will repay $92 million to St. Martin. The airport terminal reconstruction project also regulates the operational expenditures and has to date provided $10.9 million to PGIA. This has allowed the airport to cover eligible operating costs and enables airport to continue to pay its debt to the bondholders as well as continue to operate. So at this point, no other loans are being looked at. So we have allocated the extra $20 million from the trust fund. The status of the flags. I go now, Madam Chair, to questions posed by MP Akeem Arundel. His question related to the status of the flags on the island and budget for the upkeep and maintenance of them. The Department of Facility Services is charged with the maintenance of the flags on the borders, the flags at the Colby Lookout Point, on Colby Hill, the government administration buildings, and other government buildings. It is also making provisions to hoist flags at the Oyster Pond as well as the lowland borders where there are currently no flags. The Causeway Roundabout flag is maintained by the Harbor Group of Companies, and the Department of Facilities has made the investment of about 44,952 guilders to purchase both Dutch and St. Martin flags that measure 3 by 5 and 5 by 8 in size. Based on this investment made to purchase flags, we now have sufficient flags for the upkeep of the flags at the borders during the year 2022. So all maintenance, etc., is by the Department of Facility Services. The next question was about civil servants leaving government and how many departments are experiencing that. That will be provided in the overview. As mentioned before, I believe it was 21. We have noticed an increase in the rate of persons leaving. We have not been able to concretely ascertain the causes, so we will have to have an overview. This was already requested from P&O, as a matter of fact. We do have some ideas, but I believe it's a multifaceted issue. At present, we are having internal discussions and seeking solutions to address one that we know for sure is a deterrent, They've also been we also suspect that measures taken up in B5, B8, and B9, which are research into the HR process and situation at the administration of government, may help us to identify the problem areas and allow us to come with solutions to improve the attractiveness of working and staying in government, remaining in government's employ, along with possibilities for growth. In the interim, some of the HR policies that have been interpreted in various ways over the past years are being assessed, and a solution is, let's say, I'm hoping, in the offing. So we're asking for those who are a bit, especially where it concerns promotion, what is seen as a promotion or not, and how that is interpreted, that those who are facing that challenge would allow us some more time to finalize that process so that we can ensure that policy is executed with the intentions that it was set. I believe the answer as to which departments are experiencing this, I gave the overview of the various departments within government that had persons leave. So once they get that in writing, the members can then deal with the answers if there's follow-up. I move now to the questions of MP Emmanuel. MP Emmanuel, through you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, asked whether the civil servants would get back money owed to them. Indeed, the money that was owed to civil servants has been given back to them. As per the meeting of May 28, 2020, and the letter of the unions of June 1st, 2020, government and the unions had agreed on the vacation allowance owed in 2020 would be paid out. This was done in June of 2021, the balance, the 50% that had been held. Further agreement was dependent upon the verdict of the Constitutional Court of 2021. So the vacation pay that was withheld from 2021, we asked for a stay in the execution of that one until the verdict was released, so that we wouldn't have the situation whereby it is paid out and we would have to pay it back. Also, liquidity at the time did not allow for it to be paid out. Further agreement was dependent upon the verdict, and the court's verdict upheld the laws. As such, a 2021 vacation allowance was deemed to be the contribution towards a 12.5% cut for 2021, for us to be able to continue to receive the necessary liquidity support to be able to uphold the salaries and the other obligations of government. So as such, we have repaid what is owed at this time, and we will continue to discuss the way forward. Is government considering to let go any civil servants or reduce their salaries? Since the inception of the 12.5% cuts as imposed by the Kingdom Council of Ministers in May of 2020, we as government have expressed that we have no intention of reducing any salaries or unjustly relieving any civil servants of service. We have done everything we could to ensure that no salaries were cut up until present. Since most of the benefits we consider secondary and tertiary are not regulated in the civil servants' total package, they also could not be cut, so they retain some of those benefits. But as such, we are still in the discussions to finalize how it will be going in the future. So we have already ascertained what is for 2021, but we still need to have more discussions with the unions finalized to be able to move forward. Can the Minister of Finance, or I assume the Minister of Finance, answer that question? There was a question about a voucher program to supermarkets for civil servants. I must say there was a big debate in answering this question as to what exactly was meant. But since it mentions, let's say the administration was referring to the voucher program that was for the general public in terms of food voucher program. I believe that the question is geared towards, if it's for civil servants, towards a voucher program that had been instituted in the past, that would be a Christmas gift, let's call it, for the civil servants. We did not execute this Christmas voucher program via the supermarkets for the civil servants in 2020 due to the budgetary constraints. And as we are still running on a deficit budget, it is not the intention to do so again this year. Is it true that, and if that's not what the question was, then I'll hear it from the Member of Parliament. Is it true that there will be a reduction for civil servants' GEBE bills? I think everybody would like a relief from GEBE bills. There is no plan at this point for specific reduction of bills for GEB, for civil servants. Of course, any opportunity that we have to reduce the cost of living as it regards to GEBE bills that is within the purview of government and GEBE, we will definitely look to do. But as of this very moment, there is no relief that I see. Will a voucher program be set up for civil servants at certain supermarkets? As mentioned before, if such a voucher program would be set up, it would have to be for the general public and especially the needy. We have, maybe this relates to that question, requested the SARE to conduct research into the cost of living on St. Martin. The Ministry of TIAT is looking at increasing the basket of goods to protect basic needs for the people of St. Martin as well. So what is within the purview at this time we are working on. We've had discussions in the past with the WICLU and the CCSU members. We've been requested for another meeting on that, but because we do not have the answers as yet, specifically to that topic in terms of cost of living reduction, it is very difficult to go into a meeting without solutions. So we want to definitely continue to have those discussions among us here in St. Martin, but we will really need to have the data, the necessary data to be able to execute, because it would be one thing to make changes that are not sustainable and then you end up seeing the prices going up even higher. So we have to be very strategic in the type of adjustments that will be made. One of the goals. Will government allow civil servants to have a side job to offset any cuts they may have experienced, which is in, at this point, vacation pay? Government has always had the legal basis to allow civil servants to have neven activiteiten en werkzaamheden, side jobs. In fact, on June 18th, we sent out a reminder to civil servants as to the process and procedure, the requirements to be able to do so. So it is not forbidden, but there is a process whereby the department head, etc., has to be informed to ensure that it does not come in conflict with the job description of the civil servant. These rules can be found in Articles 51 through to 56 of the LMA, and Article 51 of the LMA states, and I quote, "Side jobs are activities which a civil servant performs in addition to his government job on the basis of employment, in conducting of business or trade, or in the fulfillment of a managerial or supervisory function. This includes many different activities in addition," unquote. "This includes many different activities. In addition, all commercial activities or activities for which one is paid outside of their government job, includes being in management or on boards of associations, foundations, and companies. As such, the civil servant is required to request permission from their department head prior to engaging in such activities." The next question was, why are some civil servants getting increment payments and some not? Please explain this process. So during this year, prior to us having the court's verdict, we were basically in a conundrum. Persons who were leaving the organization or being hired based on the national ordinance on the cost-cutting measures, they were not to receive increments starting 2021. As they were being reviewed, the provision regulating the freeze on the increment were not yet enforceable. So during that period, if a civil servant left the organization or were appointed in another function, in order to get their national decree signed off on, you had to ensure that there was legal basis for what took place. So as such, in a small group of civil servants, indeed, the increment of 2021 had to be established in finalizing their decrees and to establish their new salaries, while across the board, this was not done. We are still looking at how many that is to see how this will be dealt with. The MP expressed concern about GB and TLM implementing or not implementing cuts, actually giving bonuses, asking for an explanation as to how this can be and how they can cut without touching benefits of the employees.
MP?
Yes, the Prime Minister is correct, but I just meant the difference between GEB paying bonuses and everything and tell them doing the contrary to it, and both government-owned companies. That's what I meant. Thank you.
MP. Prime Minister?
So as government-owned company, little countries in and of themselves, have their own SLAs with their employees. Some have more benefits than others. Some have more areas in which they can cut in than others. So each company has to determine for itself and its employees how these cuts would take place. What I can say about TLM is that it is currently still in discussion with the unions and mediator to come to an agreement on the application of the law, and the austerity measures came into effect mid-2020, so July 2020. So anything that was due to the employee prior to 2020, they are due to receive, regardless to which company they are in, regardless to even government. So even persons who had to receive an increment in 2020 by government had to receive that if they received a good evaluation in 2019. So as for the two companies, the austerity measures started as per the law now, approved and ratified by the Constitutional Court. They go into effect as of July 1st. And so between the management and the unions / workers, they have to come to an agreement in how that will be applied. And because there are different companies with different agreements, there can be a different application per company. I'm hoping that explains it. As of November 17th, we did receive a letter with their proposed implementation cuts, but they are still, as I mentioned previously, in discussion with the unions. There was also a question about a fake Facebook page regarding bonuses. I'm not completely sure which Facebook page it is. I have personally blocked. Minfin answered that?
Yes, that was
Okay.
for Minfin, actually.
Great.
Minister of Finance.
But I might just want to mention that we don't have power to pull down Facebook
Right.
pages.
Understandably so.
We report, and we've been seeing quite some pages in various social media platforms popping up, including several that are impersonating me. So please do not accept any new request from anybody claiming to be me. I also have a Twitter one from May that my son highlighted to me yesterday. So we're doing our best to, report these, but they're not always forthcoming or don't react as quickly as you would expect. The next question was related to GB, if I can provide a copy of the Corporate Governance Council advice on the new supervisory board and the CGC advice for the new management board. As far as I know, all CGC advices come to Parliament, Madam Chair? Don't all CGC advices already come to
Yes.
Parliament?
Yes.
Okay, so I expect that would be already within Parliament. Airport question, why was the local CFO counterpart not yet appointed? Can a new contract be provided that was signed with Schiphol? The shareholder has requested an update on this as well. Madam Chair, through you to the members of Parliament, it has been one of the main points that we have asked follow-up to be given to, and we are still awaiting the plan of action for such. A copy of the extension agreement that had been signed was shared with the honorable members of Parliament. So several parts of the agreement still need to be executed, and as soon as we get the update from the airport, we'll be able to update the Parliament on that. The latest update I can mention from the management of the airport, I just saw that, is that they have to restart the selection process as the earlier candidates had not been approved by all relevant parties. So they are on the way to restart that process, and we will follow up to ensure that takes place, hopefully within the first quarter of 2022. Since the reconstruction of PGIA in September, what exactly has been done? The reconstruction commenced. Maybe something's missing there. Which areas are scheduled to come online first? Provide details on the work done on these sections. Teams of the airport and the contractor are working on optimal phasing with support of the supervising engineer as we speak. A general timeline for completion of the various stages has been made public previously. Is there an active process to hire a new COO at the PGIA? There was an expert from Rotterdam to train for operations at the airport for 6 months. I don't believe. The Member of Parliament mentions that he doesn't believe that, or he believes that the person will be appointed COO.
Prime Minister, that was already answered by the Minister of Finance.
He had said they would come back.
To answer it, okay.
Okay. No, that's fine. The Minister of TIAT can come back. The only thing I can update on this is that there is no communication regarding a new COO. There is a pending investigation, and it's a sensitive subject. The coach was hired to support the director of operations and manager of security at the airport. This expert from Rotterdam is scheduled to stay for 6 months. And we are indeed informed the decision to bring someone to train local managers. So that's basically what we were updated about, and that's as far as it goes. We will not be in support of such a move, Madam Chair. I can tell you that as shareholder. Is it so that the airport is seeking more money since the contractor indicated that they cannot complete construction with what is provided now? Is there an issue with Ballast Needham with the reconstruction? Does this stem from the issue of Ballast Needham being terminated with Schiphol for not being able to finish the construction of the pier on time? From our management at PGIAE, I have been informed that the additional money of $20 million is not related to the interaction with the contractor. The project in St. Martin has absolutely no relation whatsoever with Schiphol and the Netherlands or whomever contract they are carrying out there. So I think I answered that question earlier as well about this 92 million, yeah, and the additional 20 million. The next question was pertaining to whether we were aware of the false count article stating that there will be implications, etc. Again, as shareholder, we have not been apprised of any such developments. It remains another question that related to the COO and whether it would be a local or not. Indeed, that remains the goal of the shareholder and the vision to see our government-owned companies run by our own people. That remains our priority, and we will ensure that our representatives keep that in mind while carrying out their due diligence. Number 26, how many numbers reforms are dependent on the COHO? Is liquidity support dependent on whether Parliament agrees to the COHO? What happens if Parliament says no? This is regarding 3 laws. The 3 laws passed Parliament already. The COHO itself is a whole other law. So the COHO is an entity which will monitor the execution of the country packages, say the implementation agendas, which we are currently doing based on our quarterly agreements. All measures mentioned in the country package are covered in this. In the meantime, this is being monitored by the TWO, as you know, as I've updated, and in the agreements, the Voorwaardenbrief, it is mentioned among others that if St. Martin informs the Kingdom Council of Ministers, so the original Voorwaardenbrief, which we agreed to, that if St. Martin informs the Kingdom Council of Ministers at any time that there is no consensus for the draft Kingdom law establishing the COHO, then the agreement ceases to exist, which will mean that the country package and the measures will not be executed as such. The conditions, of course, to receive liquidity support are then not present anymore, and then it will be up to the Netherlands how they will continue. The 3 national ordinances that were mentioned, the 3 laws, those were local laws, and they were conditions for the first tranches of liquidity support. We have already lived up to that end of the agreement. And we, as mentioned before, also can end the execution of those national ordinances by national decree. Parliament will, once the COHO goes to the second chamber, also have the opportunity to peruse that and the note of aanwijziging if it is approved. Yeah? I am stuck. I'm not moving. What's going on there? Madam Chair, may I have a few moments?
Would you like to have
I'm
a
having
five?
yes,
5 minutes?
I'm having a technical
Okay.
glitch. Thank you.
We all,
Everybody-
we all want that 5-minute break. 5 minutes. The meeting adjourned for 5 minutes. Welcome back, members of parliament. After that brief adjournment, we would now like to give the floor over to the Prime Minister to continue with the answering of the questions by the members of parliament. Prime Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the break. We were at the question related to medium enterprise share of security. This was answered already?
No,
No? Okay. For services at Festival Village, how much money do we owe? The same business for schools. I believe the Minister of ECYS did answer the school part.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to clarify again that in our meeting with SOG, which we held on December 3rd, Government of St. Martin is in arrears with SOG. So we owe SOG. SOG owes the company. We do not owe the company. So we are making a payment arrangement with SOG so that they can live up to their obligations. I think that is what I explained the last time, but it seems that I still needed to clarify that. This is a completely separate matter to what may or may not exist between ECYS and the schools. The U.S. preclearance, did Minister of T answer this?
Yes.
Great. Also for the economic stakeholders, friend side, yeah, great. I already answered the Mateo question. Excuse me?
So start with Fatia. 36.
Dying for finance too.
36 was answered already, no?
36 was answered. This related to the 68 hires. I answered that in the answer for MP Westcott Williams. The final report of the Netherlands in reference to the employment conditions package B5 will be made for the retrenchment measures. What are they? How will the retrenchment proposal be used for civil servants? How much more will they be enduring and giving up? What will they lose? The Member of Parliament needed an immediate answer. Madam Chair, I'd like to refer to the information and update I provided in the meeting of November, where all ministers provided updates on their part of the implementation agenda. I can also refer to the following statements that I made specifically to answer this question. Firstly, for this measure, a plan of action, a plan of approach has been drafted to conduct a comparative study into the employment conditions and fringe benefits in St. Martin, Aruba, and Curacao. The comparative study has been completed, and so far 2 concept reports have been drafted. By now, we would have received the final report. However, there have been some delays. These delays are due to critical responses given by the personnel department on the way the research was set up and conducted. P&O requested for adjustments of the research question for the comparative study of employment conditions. They also requested an additional research focus, namely the addition of a comparison of purchasing power in St. Martin, Aruba, and Curacao. P&O provided critical feedback on how the research was conducted and the results on the concept reports 1 and 2. No adjustments were made and no proper discussions on our concerns as mentioned by St. Martin. Therefore, until now, there is no agreement on the content, and as such, I cannot give any further information. What I can say also, MP, through you, Madam Chair, is that especially we feel that a really good research has to be done, and that research would actually prove that we maybe need to remove the conditions, because a lot of assumptions were at the start of this implementation agenda. And I must say sometimes assumptions from one island were just carried over to the others. This is one of the arguments we had from day one and why we literally protested, and until we couldn't financially do it any better, still agreed based on the fact that we would get to fill in the way in which it was done. And so as long as it's not being carried out in the manner in which we feel would be beneficial for us to have the data that we need to be able to move forward, we cannot agree on the way forward. So at this point, they cannot proceed with it as is. For us, knowing the cost of living on St. Martin and knowing what type of benefits are available in Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin, as well as the purchasing power, will make a difference in how we're applying any type of measures. And at the end of the day, measures can be requested based on the fact that you don't have the income that you need. But we felt really that we should be able to look at whether it's operational costs or other costs and not hurt where you need people to execute, and especially where you're still hiring. Those questions that are being asked by the MPs are exactly the same points that we brought forth in our arguments over the past year from 2020 to 2021. And they will continue now. And at the end of the day, when the discussions happen at a technical level, it still needs to come to the ministers for approval. And if not even at a technical level, they can get an agreement that already bodes for a no-go. So they must reassess and make sure that St. Martin is indeed leading, that the measures are in the benefit of St. Martin and not have some ulterior motive. So we will continue to keep our attention on that. B9 is for strategic personnel policy and strategic plans limiting political influence. Are they not already implemented by P&O? Is performance management not already established by law? Indeed, Madam Chair Lady, the Member of Parliament is 100% correct with this. There are policies in place for the hiring of personnel, the same for performance management, or what we call the HR cycle. This is, however, more related to B5. On B9, I have provided an update in our meeting of November 26th on a country package and implementation agenda. Furthermore, I have to mention that the first question of MP is exactly what I've been sharing with Parliament in all my presentations on the country packages. Some of the mentioned measures are assumptions, and they are based on information of other countries and on the thought processes of politicians in the Netherlands. Next to that, I also consider that periodic evaluation of policies in general should be seen as a positive action. And so we figured as St. Martin that an assessment of our current policies could not hurt, especially as we are still experiencing some challenges with how some are being executed. So we are not looking at it that we do not have policies. We are looking at it as an evaluation of our existing policies. And as such, we have no problem with that, and we will make the necessary improvements as the assessments roll out. The next question related to the vehicle insurance increased significantly compared to last budget. Is it true that it was not paid last time? The insurance for new vehicles is financed by the trust fund for the year 2021, and I think that was brought forth when we talked about the trust fund projects. We did not budget for that insurance in 21, but we have to budget for it in 2022. So that is why we would see the raise. It's not only for the vehicles, cars, but also for equipment for VROMI and the like. So all vehicles and the fire trucks. Why is the boom not working to collect pay for parking, or why not put persons to collect fees? The boom wasn't working due to electrical issues. It was not reinstalled. The parking in the parking lot, after much discussion, at least was being supervised, as it was really crazy for a while. Efforts are underway to purchase an electronic payment system, but while that is being done, because proposals have to be made and procured to pay, etc., we are working towards reopening the parking lot with manual collection of fees effective Monday, December 20th, 2021, once we've made the necessary public notifications and placed proper signage. It was actually slated to commence on Wednesday, yesterday. However, due to not having made enough announcements about it, we postponed it to start on Monday. Tuesday, December 7th, the Daily Herald article said the trust fund is at the halfway point of lifespan. St. Martin recovering well compared to the other islands in terms of what, how are we recovering better or well? Madam Chair, the Honourable Member of Parliament asks several questions concerning an article in the Daily Herald of December 7th. This article is based on written questions posed by the Daily Herald and written answers provided by the Trust Fund Steering Committee. The articles quote the steering committee as stating that St. Martin is recovering well compared to other regions in the world, countries in the region. The comparison with other countries is based on the knowledge, experience, and involvement of the World Bank with the recovery process of other countries in the region. Average economic growth figures for 2021 for St. Martin compare favorably to those of the many other countries in the region. So that is the basis for those statements being made. EISTP, the MP would like detailed investment for the two projects for the 115 million, how much went to the hospital, airport, and not to leave out anything about consultancy fees of the World Bank and the Trust Fund. Also in the article of December 7th, Madam Chair, reference is made to 115 million US dollars in major infrastructure projects, including the new hospital and the reconstruction of the airport. For the hospital project, an amount of 28.6 million is made available. For the airport, an amount of 92 million, as I mentioned earlier, is made available from the Trust Fund and 50 million from the European Investment Bank. The administration fee of the Trust Fund is approximately 11.5 million US dollars and is not a part of these amounts. The NRPB will make itself available to provide any further information in regards to consultancy fees in a closed-door setting, as they are always willing to provide that information to the honorable members of Parliament. 100 million to repair 410 social and private homes and a police station was also in the paper, according to the MP. He wants a breakdown, detailed list of the homes, districts, etc. He mentioned a number as to how much each. That is definitely not accurate. The article of December 7th speaks to an investment of 100 million in the repairs to 410 social and private homes, police station, but this is not fully correct. The Trust Fund has invested $100 million in Emergency Recovery Project 1, ERP1, the full project, which also include the repairs to police stations, homes, but also 19 schools, 11 shelters, the new fire trucks, the ambulances, the expansion of the fire and ambulance building, government vehicles, underground cabling for GEBE, emergency equipment, and further information, of course, can be given. Relevant reports have been made available and can be made available. I understand what they're only mentioning a part. So the article is not comprehensive, and I think several numbers were taken out of context. But these reports, and on the website of the NRPB, you can go and see exactly what is being spent and where. The MP requested further information on the districts in which private and social homes had been repaired through the Trust Fund. Private home repairs were done in Upper and Lower Princess Quarters, Cul-de-sac, Cold Bay, and Phillipsburg areas. Social home repairs were mostly in Belvedere, and the rest is still to take place there. Some 64 homes are still scheduled to start, I believe, in early 2022. School repair started. Some 100 small, medium enterprises are being supported with financing packages for 7 million and sub-projects granted more than 1 million. What are the 22 NGOs? The MP would like a list. The NGOs projects do not necessarily fall under NRPB. Nevertheless, the NGOs have received support through the Trust Fund. Animal Defenders, St. Martin Foundation, Be the Change Foundation, Carib Swim Team, Discovery Kids Foundation, the Dow Musical Foundation, Excellence Learning Academy, Foundation Catholic Education, St. Martin, Frigan Food Foundation, GBNM Nanny Nursey Foundation, Helping Hands Foundation, K1 Britannica Foundation, Nature Foundation, Phillipsburg Jubilee Library, Reading Rainbow Foundation, Risk Takers Football Club, Stichting UC Stele Instelling and St. Martin AIDS Foundation, St. Martin Senior Citizens Recreational Foundation, St. Martin Yacht Club, St. Martin Early Childhood Association, and the University of St. Martin. More information on the projects can be found on the website of R4CR, via which the foundations were all able to access direct funding, not via the trust fund. It is https://www.r4, the number 4, cr.org/projects. So that is www.r4cr.org/projects. And these were projects that were done outside of the trust fund, outside of the NRPB part of the trust fund, so direct financing. The next question, isn't it so that government identifies the projects concerning the trust fund? Who puts them together? How does the trajectory go for identifying the projects? How many projects did we identify that the steering committee said yes to? Where are the projects that are producing visible results? How and where is economy activity mentioned? The government, through the Council of Ministers, decides on the position of St. Martin in the steering committee. In so doing, when the council approves a project proposal, it is submitted to the steering committee for their deliberation and approval on consensus basis. The steering committee has decided on the allocation of funding for projects. The prioritization of projects is guided by the NRRP, the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, and the strategic framework of the trust fund. Project proposals can be submitted by each of the 3 members of the steering committee. In practice, most project proposals are conceived and prepared by the government of St. Martin together with the World Bank and the NRPB. All trust fund projects have been approved by the Council of Ministers and by consensus of the steering committee. All that are currently ongoing under implementation or preparation have been identified by government as important for the recovery and future resilience of St. Martin. 8 are under implementation. 8 that are under implementation are the airport terminal project, the emergency recovery project, which is a large project made up of many sub-projects, the emergency debris management project, EDMP, the emergency income support and training program project, EISTP, the enterprise support project, ESP, the hospital resilience and preparedness project, the resources for community resilience project, that's R4CR, and the Child Resilience and Protection Project. This thing's sticking again. The 3 projects under preparation are the Fostering Resilience, I may need to use one of your laptops, Madam Chair. Fostering Resilience Learning Project, FRLP, that those are under preparation, so not yet execution. The Digital Transformation Project, DGTP, and the Mental Health Project. On the request of government, the World Bank and the NRPB are also preparing a proposal for a potential housing project at this time of up to $20 million. All the projects under implementation are producing visible results for the people and business community of St. Martin. While not always as fast as we would want, the projects are supporting government entities, many small businesses, NGOs, and private citizens. The bulk of the contracts went to local contractors. 44% of trust fund money went into the economic activity in St. Martin during this pandemic period. Of the $500 million, explain what is 44% of that. Who are benefiting from it? The article stated that some 44% of the funds allocated to projects have been dispersed. Not 44% of the fund, but funds allocated to projects. These resources are supported economic activity in St. Martin. I'm quoting from the article. It says some 44% of funds allocated to projects have been disbursed. These resources are supporting economic activity in St. Martin during this particularly difficult pandemic period. The bulk of the contracts have gone to local contractors, with a few larger, more specialized contracts bringing international companies to the island, unquote. For me to explain a bit further, the Netherlands has made approximately $515 million available to the trust fund. To date, the steering committee has allocated $313.2 million to projects under implementation. Of that funding, that allocated funding of 313.2, 44% has been disbursed. So the 44% is on the allocated funds, which is of the 313.2 million. This means that an amount of about 142.6 has been transferred from the trust fund to the relevant project accounts and is used to pay contract and suppliers under the different projects. Over $110 million has already been spent and has, as such, supported economic activity within the country. A significant part of these funds has been spent on activities that are taken up by local contractors or subcontractors. Think, for example, of the repairs to the police stations, the first batch of school repairs, home repairs, and the upcoming first phase of underground cabling works with GEBE. All these works were financed through the trust fund and will be completed by local contractors. The MP mentioned also, Madam Chair, that the French side has more sunken wrecks and hired the Dutch company for $4 million, while we paid 14. After inquiring, the government was informed that the scope of the French side's contract excludes the export of wage, which is also very costly. More information on the execution of the project being carried out on the northern side would have to be sought from the collectivity or the government of the northern side, as this is their jurisdiction, and we are not informed on the details of this project, nor are we collaborating for such. What also maybe needs to be mentioned is that the mobilization of the company, etc., would not be the cost of the company or of anyone that is now contracting, whilst to get the company here to do the works required mobilization, which would have been included in the price we paid. Which police stations are they talking about for repairs? This was answered by Min Finance?
By the Minister of Justice.
Okay.
The Minister, sorry.
If you may permit me, Madam Chair. You see, this is the point of order, Madam Chair. This is the reason why we asked what we asked in the beginning, because now, not to be defending the Prime Minister, but now she's forced to answer the same questions that have already been asked to other ministers. So the other ministers haven't done justice to the Prime Minister, because those questions was already asked to the Minister of Justice to come back and answer, concerning the police stations and the French side and all those things was asked to previous ministers before. Hence the reason why in the beginning we said, why give all the questions to one minister knowing that this would have happened? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, MP Emmanuel. Madam Prime Minister, you have the floor to continue.
Yes, so I
if
think in
anything,
terms
just-
of determining which questions fit which minister, questions related to the trust fund would normally come to me, and so that's why they were on my list to be answered. But if this has been answered already, because it's relating to a trust fund project, not necessarily a justice project, so if it's answered already, I move on. The insurance and maintenance of the new trucks, the fire trucks do fall by me, so I assume nobody didn't answer that. Government is covering the cost of the insurance of the new and existing fire trucks. The sales contract signed off for the new trucks included a 3-year maintenance support plan and maintenance training for the staff. As such, government will ensure that the budget for the maintenance of the trucks will be included in our budgets after the 3rd year. When will the new ambulances arrive? Will the Minister of VS answer that? He answered already? Good. Q2, Q3 of 2022. Good. I just have they're being made in the US. Fireworks, the question on fireworks, a company got their import license denied, 2 others got approved. How is that a local person that paid taxes did not get it while others did? The 2 companies that received firework permits are companies that applied and received permits for the import, transport, and display of professional fireworks. It's a different regulation than for consumer fireworks. In their application, they have provided all the necessary information and met all requirements to be able to import and handle the professional fireworks. The local company, which applied for import, transport, and sale of consumer fireworks, have not met the requirements up until today. The company has been informed which requirements still had to be met before a permit could be issued. The fire department received notice from the Vromi department as well regarding the hindrance permit, which is one of the stipulated requirements. And these are all stipulated by the fireworks ordinance / vuurwerkbesluit. The fire department had several sessions also with the company in question to explain and guide them in the process to finalize the application, ensuring that all was in place. So until everything is in place, that permit would not be able to be handled. Sorry. MP Bryson's questions. National Archive recurring topic. Is there a plan to establish an official archive that is free, national archive that is free of that gives, I guess, free access for the public, MP, civil servants, that is a continuous database? Is there a long-term plan? We are currently in the assessment phase to be able to set up a virtual national archive. This avenue is still being researched. Further, I can elucidate that there's a difference between physical and virtual. The physical archive is a place where public records and historical materials such as documents, tapes, photographic material are preserved, and where people can go to gather first-hand facts, data, and evidence from these letters, reports, etc. A virtual archive, on the other hand, provides users from anywhere access to have the same records online from the comfort of their homes, offices, or wherever they may be seeking that information. So they are then not bound to opening hours and can do their research at any time. So indeed, we think that that is the direction that we should be going. And the longer term plan is that once we have established, once the virtual archive is in place, so the first goal is the virtual archive, based on the fact that we do not have the space at this time to have persons go as freely as they would like to physically research, and then for the longer term, establish a physical national archive on a smaller scale and possibly in collaboration with the National Museum. This because there are several pieces of historical material also outside of St. Martin, and as such, we must be able to safeguard and ensure that we have proper storage on island before making arrangements to have them returned. Overheid.nl, is this an actual government or third-party company containing legislation? What does PM have planned to expand on this to have officially all local legislations available online at one source? Indeed, it is a third party that is publishing our legislation at this time. The company is called Daadkracht, and they are assisting JZNW with the actual execution, processing, and editing of national laws and regulations in consolidated form. The Department of JZNW sends its national legislation to Daadkracht, which is mandated by the government of St. Martin to process and execute publication of national laws and regulations in consolidated form, in the most updated form, to avoid duplication or outdated articles that no longer apply on behalf of the government. In the past, this service was executed in-house. However, due to separate status after 10-10-10, we did not have ample manpower in-house to continue processing all of the national laws and regulations into consolidated text, GT teksten. Daadkracht was therefore contracted to assist with this process. This year, however, there have been some challenges in accessing the site. Our Department of ICT has proposed that the repository of legislation be hosted by government, and accessing the Overheid.nl site for local registration will redirect to our local repository. A plan to have this plan worked out is being finalized. The member also mentioned that they were looking for the National Ordinance on Expropriation. And where does one go to find the explanatory memorandum legislation that has not been amended or carried over from the Netherlands Antilles and not digitally archived? The department has a digital archive in which they can search for all legislation and their explanatory memoranda. If it is not available on the government website, also the Department of DIV, which is Information Foreseeing, Information Management, has an archive in which all legislation is registered. Further, YEZET and is in contact with Curaçao to request old, quote-unquote, legislation which were established in the Netherlands Antilles. In this particular case, YEZET received the national ordinances and 2 adjusted explanatory memoranda from Curaçao, but they're still looking for the original explanatory memoranda. So once we get that updated, that information can be forwarded further in writing. Personnel issues within government. Who's determining what is not a critical function? The member wanted to know how long it is taking from the moment a minister informs P&O that they are ready to start the hiring process. From what point until a person is hired, what does that look like in terms of a time frame? Why is the impression being given that there are huge bottlenecks there? How is it possible that people are being interviewed for a position that they were acting for, and then when they're offered the position permanently, they're being told that they cannot negotiate? This is your salary, take it or leave it. When are we going to fix this? The SG, or the department head, will provide an overview of functions to the department that the organization considers to be critical. This is then approved by the minister. The recruitment procedure usually starts with an ad, which is then published. In general, the department head / ministry would then secure what has to be in that ad. So that part lies by the department / ministry. In general, 2 weeks is given for the applicants to send in their applications. The selection of the candidate is based on their letters, CVs, the job interview, and then the selection committee selects the best candidate. The drafting of an advice can then commence. The advice is drafted by the Department of Personnel and Organization, and it goes to the relevant ministry and follows a trajectory through to the Ministry of Finance, after which the advice goes to the relevant minister for final approval. If it is a managerial department head function, it then needs to go to the Council of Ministers for approval as well. The next step is then the signing of a contract or a national decree, which has to first be submitted to the governor and then contrasigned by the relevant minister. Candidates also have to candidates also need a VOG, Verklaring omtrent het gedrag, Certificate of Good Conduct, and a good bill of health. This sometimes also takes time. During this entire process, the advice can be delayed because it may not have been handled quickly enough by the relevant handler at any of the particular times within that process. The remark that there are civil servants who have been for decades in an acting position could not be verified at this time. I'll request an overview from P&O. Known to me is that there are currently 3 acting SGs over the past few years. I know within our tenure, from 2019 to now, several acting functions have been advertised and are one of the new hires or continued hires that have been executed in the overview that I gave earlier. It is important to note that positions are valued at a certain scale, so it is not as in the private sector that management of an HR department can determine what the salary is. We are using a government scaling system, which is established by law, and there is room to negotiate within the scale. Another point I can mention is that application of some of the current HR policies that I discussed earlier are under review, and hopefully we will bring some much needed change there to ensure that there is effective and efficiency, transparency, and consistency in our hiring processes. Yazet and Way Department has a 1.4 million budget. Is that based on a complete FTE filled budget or the reality of what we see? Not all functions are filled. What efforts are being made? Will government consider it not projected that we will be able to hire all the people within 2022? Would we, consider placing everyone in their rightful place and see what third-party legal support can be provided? The complete FTEs for the Department of Legal Affairs and Legislation consists of 17 staff members. The department has budgeted for 12, of which currently we're seeking to fill 2 critical functions. The 2 vacant functions are that of the department head and a legislative lawyer. I'd like to mention that the recruitment process for the 2 positions mentioned is a challenge. We have been, we're actually looking at headhunting at the moment. SWAB also had assisted us in the search for candidates, and we still remain quite challenged with that. So we're trying to fill it, and where it can be filled, definitely another solution will have to be found, as that department has to deal with all the measures, it has to deal with all the other aspects, budget, everything else, every legal advice that is requested has to pass through there. How many departments are dealing with the public? Oh, sorry, I'm now going to the questions of MP Bejlani. One was how many departments are dealing with the public, and explain how the different departments are interlinked. How the different departments serving the public are interlinked. The departments who are providing services, Madam Chair, to the public are Civil Registry Department, the Directorate of Foreign Relations under the Ministry of General Affairs. Under the Ministry of TEAT, we have economic licenses. On the finance, we have the Receiver's Office. On the VSA, social affairs, services, and labor. The services are provided at the government building and coordinated for the most part by the Public Service Center Department in close consultation with the management of said departments. They are also available in the Simpson Bay area. There are some departments such as Fire Department, Immigration, and CPS that also provide services to the public from their respective locations. And on how many departments are per ministry, I'd refer the MP to the National Ordinance on the Structure and Organization of the National Government, the LEO. As is known, the Ministry of General Affairs provides support for the entire organization. As also mentioned in the National Ordinance LEO, although there is no department mention of the departments being interlinked within the ordinance, based on the Ordinance of General Affairs, the support is given by Facility Services, ICT, DIV, and Personnel Affairs, as well as Public Service Center. Furthermore, there's an SG platform where collaboration takes place and interministerial subjects are handled. Is there a plan in place to determine ahead of time when a tsunami will strike? As country, we are a member of the TWC, which stands for the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, and is one of the PTWC is one of the tsunami warning centers that are operated by the NOAA in the United States. Anytime there is a tsunami warning for the Caribbean, we are alerted via email. There are several individuals within the disaster management structure who receive said email, and they then alert the necessary local organizations according to the agreed upon and established protocols. The question regarding the digitalization of government is mentioned that this process will take 4 years. A time chart was provided on how long it will take place and whether the public will see changes within the first year or only after 4 years. Well, this isn't here, but I know we announced several changes already that have gone digital, gone online, that persons can do several services now. I believe 7, was it 7 or 9 from 7 from General Affairs on the Civil Registry. Finance also has quite some. Upon completion, though, of our digital strategy and roadmap under the DGTP project, an official time chart will be available, which will outline the initiatives and the outcomes for each component per year. The project has established baselines, yearly immediate targets, and end targets. With these targets being set, it is expected that the public will notice the impact throughout the project's life cycle. A detailed implementation plan is being developed for all of the project activities, which will be executed and on an annual basis. And once we are finalized with that, then this will be available. On social media, the MP mentioned it was published that the new acting minister plenipotentiary was appointed. They do not see this reflected in the budget. The cost of the acting plenipotentiary minister is reflected in the budget under the cabinet of the plenipotentiary minister. The decrease in personnel expenses has to do with personnel changes and does not affect the expenditures necessary for the acting plenipotentiary minister. One of the common line items the Member of Parliament asks are material costs in every ministry. What are material costs? What material are actually needed? Material costs is translated from operational costs, is basically operational costs for each department. This can consist of third-party personnel, so consultants, it can be travel expenses, office supplies, training, uniforms, and any other expenses needed for the operation of the department. This can be based on the functioning and vary based on the functioning of each department. There's a decrease of about 33% in insurance for the insurance of buildings. Is this a discount, or are 33% of the buildings not functional? It was indeed decided that insurance of buildings would be shared between the Ministry of General Affairs and the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. Especially after the hurricane, it was noted that the schools needed to be on their separate insurance, schools and sports facilities. So the ECYS ministry will facilitate those, and Ministry of General Affairs will cover the insurance for all the other government buildings. The insurance budget for the Ministry of General Affairs was reduced by the cost of the insurance for the schools, which is now reflected in the budget of the Ministry of ECYS. So that's just a shifting of expenses. Department of Facilities, which manages the insurances, is seeking options to save on insurance costs by moving more offices into government-owned locations where the different departments will be housed together. In addition, several buildings are no longer functional, such as the old government building, the post office, police academy, the old fire department building, the Sorimar building, which all affected the reduce in costs. The increase in vehicle insurance I explained already. There was also mention made of income from the parking lot not being found in the budget. It would be listed in the revenue section of the budget and it is listed at 3.003 million guilders. The budget post for the income for the parking lot is 53489-3107 in the amount of 151,455. Is that correct? Okay, I scratched that response, that last response. Let it end by the 3 million guilders. The forecasted income for the parking lot is minimal, as the facilities still need to be repaired and updated. This updating is still ongoing, and once electricity has been connected, as mentioned before, we'll be able to see a more concerted collection of funds. On Monday, though, the manual collection will resume. I have to double check the figures that I have there. Please explain for the public to understand how APS pension works, especially the civil servant's contribution part while working and while on pension. Since the change of the pension scheme as per July 1st, 2020, the premium towards APS is 18% of the gross salary. This is paid by the employer. The employer withholds 8% of the gross salary minus the franchise of the employee. The franchise is 10.7 times the amount of the AOV. On average, employees pay about 6% of their gross salaries. Employees with small salaries pay less. Employees with larger salaries pay more. Once the employee retires, they will receive their pension from APS. They do not pay further pension fees once they are receiving pension. MP Duncan asked about public management and reform mentioned that this is key. Our ministry is currently structured to meet our needs. It's a very broad question, but Madam Chair, I understand the question. I would say that one of the objectives of the reform measures and our intentions as government is to ensure that we reform ministries to be more resilient, more effective, and more efficient in supporting the community. A number of policies and processes are outdated. These are the types of reforms we need, said the MP. Detailed information on budget and policy tied to budget posts. Various policies, Madam Chair, in my focus area of HR, ICT, facilities, and ministerial policies for the Council of Ministers, among others, are currently being assessed and updated to ensure effectiveness and efficiency, which have also led already to some cost savings and customer service improvement, as well as employee satisfaction. This may lead where necessary also to legislative changes, and as Ministry General Affairs, we have also commenced since July gone with policy-based budgeting and will ensure or promote that this takes place across the board so that ministerial and department plans can cohesively, naturally flow out of this policy budgeting process, policy-based budgeting. The member also asks about building new housing and social housing, but needing more support for the rent committee, the rental tribunal. Since last year, we have reached an agreement with the Ministry of General Affairs to be able to support the rental committee for them to restart their support to the public. This has been working very well, for example, in case of hiring staff on the indication of the committee to the ministry. We've reached an agreement and the advices are being prepared for me to sign off on. Furthermore, other bottlenecks are also discussed, for example, have been discussed with facility service regarding their housing. And last year also the implementation of screens, etc., because of COVID was facilitated via facility services. So they do continue to receive our support as they receive their clients. The legal bottlenecks are also discussed with the Department of Legal Affairs. All in all, we are providing the support as best as we can with the aim of course, doing better to improve their ability to lend service to the community. I'm down to the last question from MP Marlin. On page 75 of the overview of rental agreements and government properties, two things caught the MP's attention. One was the value of the building, and he was wondering if this had been updated, whether this is the correct valuation and ownership. All buildings listed are government-owned buildings. All the buildings were appraised to determine the insurance costs. The Little League Stadium is managed by the Little League Foundation but remains government's property, while the other sporting facilities are managed by the St. Martin, the National Sports Institute, and the subsidized schools are managed by the school boards, so the subsidized school boards. Even though the foundations and school boards are subsidized by government of St. Martin, the buildings are still government-owned buildings. That includes the NIPA building and the Hillside Christian School next to it, which were all built by government, funded by government. So they remain on our list as assets. That's the last question that I have listed, and I hope with the overlap that was experienced that Parliament is well informed as to the questions that were asked.
Thank you, Madam Prime Minister, for your answers. We'll go straight into the clarifications or any additional questions that members of Parliament may have. And the first person I see on the speakers list is MP Sarah Westcott Williams. You have the floor.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, I believe in my zeal to lend my voice to the issues that were discussed during notifications. Earlier, I omitted, at least I don't recall having said good morning and welcome to the Prime Minister, welcome to Parliament, but in any case, herewith, and at the same time, thanking the Prime Minister for the answers provided. Madam Chair Lady, I don't have many additional questions because I look forward to receiving all of the answers in writing so that they can be studied, compared, and allow members of parliament to prepare well for the public meeting. So, but I do have some questions that I believe were overlooked from my first set of questions, and just a few additional questions for the Prime Minister. Madam Chair Lady, the reason this particular question might have been overlooked is because it was not directed to any particular minister. However, I would like to receive an answer from every minister to the following. In the budget provided to Parliament for your ministry, Prime Minister, are there any new policy initiatives, policies that are not country package related? If so, which and how are they connected to the budget? So I want to see which policies, projects of policies, and where are they manifested financially in the budget. I had also asked, and I don't know, maybe this is going to be answered by the Minister of Finance, but I would like to know if the government at this time have an overview of the overall picture of the 3 cost-cutting measures laws, and can supply Parliament with an answer to who complied thus far and how. The following question that I asked, the Prime Minister addressed it in addressing, or partially addressed it in addressing a question by MP Emmanuel, and that has to do with the vacation allowance for 2020 that was paid out in 2021. And I want to have confirmed whether I understood the Prime Minister, similar to what the Minister of Finance alluded to, that what will be done now with that payout is still under discussion. But Madam Chair Lady, I asked a very pertinent second part to that question, and it goes as follows. If an alternative is found, because this money was paid out as vacation allowance, the government did that actually in contravention of its own law, and is now seeking, I hope, some type of alternative to this, and not that persons will be told, well, you received this money, but it was actually in contravention of the law. So if an alternative is found for this, is it possible then that vacation allowance is paid out in 2022, and that the alternative which is to be found, that will then be the part of the vacation allowance towards the reduction of 12.5%? So if we find a solution now that is not cutting the vacation allowance, can that solution, whatever solution the government and the unions and the CSU come up with, can that solution be applied in 2022 so that vacation allowance can be paid out, is my question. Can the Prime Minister at this point in time inform Parliament what the implementation agenda for the first quarter of 2022 is? Is that already known, or is this something that will be decided on tomorrow, Friday, the 17th of December, by the Kingdom Council of Ministers? So is there already an agreement on the implementation agenda for the first quarter of 2022? And if so, can that be shared? Madam Chair Lady, in the policy plan 2022, the annex to the budget, the draft budget 2022, the government has indicated 7 main themes that for this government are important policy initiatives for 2022. Most of these fall under other ministries, but the one for good governance relate, in my opinion, to the Ministry of General Affairs. And from that perspective, again, I would like to know what concretely is being proposed with the budget 2022 part of the promotion of good governance, and if there is a cost involved, what is this cost? Where can it be found? Madam Chair Lady, I asked the question because I quoted from the government's budget presentation that says the following: legislation agenda focuses on amending legal regulation to facilitate execution of reforms in the country package. And my specific question to this statement by government was, what about other legislation, and very specifically, what about legislation regarding electoral reform, an item that has been touted not only by several factions in Parliament, including mine, but also by government? Madam Chair Lady, I also asked, and I underlined the word tangible. I asked what tangible actions towards regional cooperation has this government taken, or is the government intending to take in 2022? Could those be outlined? And then, Madam Chair Lady, I would like the Minister, the Prime Minister, Minister of General Affairs, to add to those questions the following questions. The Integrity Chamber, Madam Chair Lady, appears in the budget 2022 for 2.4 million guilders, because now, in 2022, this total amount, differently than the year 2021, is for the government of St. Martin. And does the Integrity Chamber have a policy plan? So in other words, what are the activities of the Integrity Chamber for the year 2022? What do these look like? What are they? What will be their focus? Where will they concentrate, etc., etc.? Does the Integrity Chamber have a policy plan for 2022? I guess my answer my next answer has been responded to by the Prime Minister, because I wanted to know what contributes to the increase of the budget for 2022 of the Cabinet of the Minister Plenipotentiary in The Hague. I guess that has to do with the establishment, the putting into function of the acting Minister Plenipotentiary. And I would like to know whether that is the case. There is an increase in the personnel post of the Cabinet of the Minister Plenipotentiary. And is my assumption correct that it has to do with the placement in that function of the acting Minister Plenipotentiary? Madam Chair Lady, through you to the Prime Minister, is there still, as the budget would suggest, an electoral reform committee? Has that committee done anything in the year 2021? And is it the intention that this committee does anything in 2022? And if so, what? The matter of legislation in the University of Curacao has been put with the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. So I skip that one there, Madam Chair Lady, and continue to ask if the Management Committee, as it is called in the budget of the Trust Fund, the Bestuurs Committee Trust Fund, have these persons been paid in 2021? If so, what? The Prime Minister gave an answer regarding PSS. The PSS budget has gone from 2 million in 2021 to 1 million for 2022. Based on what has this reduction taken place? The reduction in what the government calls a bridging subsidy to PSS, and the Prime Minister alluded to it earlier on the basis of a question by a colleague. The SMDF is under the Prime Minister's budget and has been at the same amount, I want to believe, but I could be wrong, from the days I held the function that the Prime Minister now holds. And I would like to know, having stated that, approximately 3.5 or something like that million guilders, the National Workforce Development Program of the Minister of Finance that is being executed through the SMDF, what is the cost involved with that and where is it budgeted? Can the Prime Minister inform us whether the insurance matter, because we had received information some time back that it was being, the values of the insured and to be insured objects were being reviewed and adjusted. What is the overall picture of the insurances of government at this time? So have these amounts been adjusted, and are we now insured for the right or correct amounts? In September 2021, the Prime Minister mentioned that the final version of the NDV would come to Parliament within a month. As far as I have been able to ascertain, that hasn't happened yet. When can we expect that? Madam Chair Lady, as part of the country package, there is to be a personnel review, and the Prime Minister gave a lengthy explanation as to where things are at right now and the findings of St. Martin with the reports that have been commissioned. I have been made to understand, and I would like to know from the Prime Minister if my understanding is correct, that one of the issues that the islands have encountered, and those who were supposed to put the report together, one of the issues has been the fact that in the salaries of St. Martin, what we used to call Windward Island allowance was included. And apparently there were very, very intense discussions where this part is concerned. And given the lack of agreement, if I can call it that, on this particular measure in the country package, how does the Prime Minister see this personnel review for St. Martin going forward? Madam Chair Lady, I think I have covered the questions that I wanted to pose to the Prime Minister at this point in time, and I thank you.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Next on the speakers list, we have MP Claudius Boncamper. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and to the Prime Minister and her support staff. A pleasant good afternoon. Madam Chair, I have one clarification and a few questions. I asked about when it comes to the filling of the critical vacancies in accordance with the country packages of B8, how that was in contrast to the CFT telling us that we're not allowed to do this really, because we are too high when it comes to the Caribbean public wage bill, and we must be below that before we do anything else. Those are two contradictory statements. The Prime Minister just said, well, we're going to continue going on with it because the Dutch government is cognizant of the problem. If they are cognizant of the problem, then why isn't B8 adjusted accordingly? Because it's not. We have discussed this on one or two other things also, where the country package remains the way it is, and we say, yeah, but the government in Holland is okay with it. But then change it. It's a simple amendment. Then we can be held to something a year from now when the minds change in the Netherlands, because that's what happens. So I'm just asking if that can be then looked at maybe from a different angle. Madam Chair, through you, I have a few questions for the Prime Minister. And the first question is basically based on the remarks of the CFT. The CFT said, in their opinion, and you can see it already happening with how it comes with liquidity support and all those things, that St. Martin will be up and running in 2023. We'll be back to normal. Surplus in the budget and all. If that is the case, and that's how we are going to plan moving forward, then the 3 laws will have an end date. Because once the surplus on the budget is there, we are good to go. We had loans before 2017. We had loans before the pandemic. So it cannot be an excuse now that the loans will become the reason to maintain the 12.5%. So my question to the Prime Minister is, what are the intentions of the government in 2022 and 2023? I know Aruba made a proposal to cut the salaries by only 6.25% actually in 2022 and bring it to 0 in 2023. And that's why I'm asking this question, because the same way the balanced budget in Aruba was being reviewed by the CFT. And again, when I was in the Netherlands, I asked this question, and Professor Grades made us to understand that in his opinion, and the thing is, his opinion counts, because that's what the Rijksministerraad follows when they make a decision, that we will be good to go in 2023. So that's why the question is being asked. And Madam Prime Minister, I don't want to put you on the spot with this question, but I would appreciate if you can give an elucidation on how you then think that the country will be looking forward to this rule, because as the Constitutional Court said, because of a lack of data, they can't do certain things. Utter nonsense, in my opinion, but I will address it in the public meeting. Because when it's convenient, we don't know things. And when it's convenient, we have all the data to make everything. So we will deal with that at a later date. Madam Chair, through you to the Prime Minister, I have a issue, and maybe it's because I'm close to it too, what government's policies are when it comes to the dismissal of persons that are under investigation in courts, in appeals, for whatever accusation. The LMA is clear with it. The LMA is extremely clear how you deal with a civil servant. But we speak of good corporate governance, and that all government-owned companies should be the same. The rules when it comes to corporate governance cannot be different. So why do I say this? Because many years ago, there was an investigation in the port, and the CEO of that company was charged, even incarcerated for a while. In the beginning, he was picked up, incarcerated, and after a certain amount of time, he was charged. And then his court case started. The CEO, the former CEO, remained employed and was only suspended of his statutory rights to sign on behalf of the company. Lo and behold, October 22nd, the COO at the airport is picked up, is not even formally charged at this point in time, but is being dismissed come December 23rd. Because that's what the shareholders agreement or the shareholders meeting has as agenda point. And I need to understand from the government if we are measuring with the same measuring stick, or do we have to bend over on this one because the Dutch says so? I need to understand this. And I'm going to keep coming back to it until I get a good answer. Because this is embarrassing. We talk that we're going to treat each other equal. And they say we want everybody to achieve their dream. But not everybody is going to be able to achieve their dream if we allow this type of behavior. And you know who is causing this? We, not the Dutch. The letter that was signed was not signed by Knops. It was signed by the chairlady of the holding board. Can't be. It doesn't jive. Suspend him. What happens if the young man is found innocent tomorrow? What happens then? Oh, we're so sorry? You destroyed his reputation. You destroyed it. Because my other question is this. If this is the state, we're going to do it at the airport, what will happen to the others involved in the investigation? What happens then? Are they too going to be fired? This is crazy. This behavior of at the airport is crazy. And Madam Prime Minister, you are the boss. Stop it now before it gets out of hand and you cannot stop it anymore. Call in your board and ask them what's going on. The same way we called in Dexter and said he didn't understand corporate governance, I think these also don't understand it. Because we can't measure with two different sticks. Not in one country when we're preaching good corporate governance. It can't be. And I know I'm a little emotional because I'm irritated. Because the airport seems to be the Vatican. They can do what they please like. And we don't have them to tell them. Otherwise, we can get liquidity support. They did it once. They're going to do it again. The next one going to be GB. Matter of time. It's a matter of time. Madam Chair, through you, I know a lot was said, and it's not my intention to delve into it too deep, but I need to understand from the Prime Minister what the country's intention is with not only just the lady representing us in Miss World, but the usage of the flag. Because if I pick up somebody's identity and go and collect money on their behalf or go and present on their behalf, I will be prosecuted for identity theft. So I hope the government is planning to file formal charges. Not just have a little chit-chat about it and write a letter. File formal charges. Because if we don't do this, the message will continue to resonate out there. Everything can be done in St. Martin because we still don't worry too much about it. Laissez-faire. And we need to change this image. They called us all kind of names. But this behavior that was exposed to the world in Puerto Rico is why this can happen. We allow it to happen. And I'm not laying blame by the government because I don't think all you knew. But from the minute you knew, somebody should have been by that courthouse and by the prosecutor's office filing a complaint. And I'm sure the prosecutors, through their brothers and sisters in Holland, would have had Puerto Rico notified a long time ago. Because this is a serious breach of protocol to the highest extent. People are walking around with your flag and your country's name, and they don't have permission. And I'm not too worried about the groups that were responsible for licenses. I'm worried about the country not doing nothing about it. To the young girls that are swimming in Dubai, I am sure they did it the right way. Abu Dhabi, my apologies. I thought that was the other one. But nevertheless, I'm sure they went with the right rules and regulations. Madam Chair, through you, I noticed that the Prime Minister said when it comes to cost of living, that there's still a report being prepared by the SER. And as long as they don't get that, it's going to be a little difficult to see how we go and move with minimum wage and all of those things. But Madam Chair, there is an article out right now from a well-known CPA, Terence Yandrup, who made a comparison throughout the kingdom where St. Martin scored the highest with inflation and carries, at this point in time, the lowest minimum wage. The lowest. Where did Mr. Yandrup get his data from? Because it seems to be a report that is accepted by others. My question is, how do we move forward? Because if SER has to start from scratch now, maybe we can give SER a call and ask them to get in contact with Mr. Yandrup and use that report maybe as a guiding report and get something to government. Because we cannot keep hiding behind this thing that we ain't gonna data, we ain't gonna reports. We got to do better than this. Madam Chair, through you to the Prime Minister, our image in the kingdom, and by extension to the world, seems to be that we are very bad people. We are very corrupt and all kind of things. And when you read the Regera Court that just came out, I think it's on page 5 of the Dutch government, bang, again. We going to work on the undermining and the corruption and good governance for Aruba, Kyoso, and St. Martin. Again. We go that direction because that's their trademark. We corrupt, so turn the people in the countries against them, and once you have accomplished that, you're in control. You're in control. Now, my problem is this. We are always reactive. We are not proactive. So I want to ask the Prime Minister to please make a budget amendment and ensure that there's money on the budget by the St. Martin House, that they can get a professional PR firm together and deal with this nonsense up there, because that's where it's made up. The nonsense that they put on paper and spin up there, and I understand the Minister of Plenipotentiary can't just go to give all kind of statements, but I don't mean the PR firm can't do it. We don't need DCOM to do this for us. They are not in that league. We need people that can pick up the phone, call the Volkskrant, the Telegraaf and all that, and get a front page article. That's what we need. That's what we're going to have to pay for. So please amend the budget and ensure that that piece can be done for 2022. So at least our story, St. Martin government's story, can be told. And not the one from Knops or the one from Rutte about St. Martin when they were not even here. That's the problem we have. Look at the landfill. Oh my God, what all they wrote about it. What have they done until today? Even the sand you see up there, Public Works got it from St. Bart's. Not the Dutch. They put caterpillars up there that they can't maintain because they didn't put that in the budget. So what are we talking about? And then, yes, though, we get the bad press that that dump is toxic and going to kill people. This is crazy. We need somebody to deal with the bad press that we're getting. And I hope we can put some money on the budget, or I'll bring the amendment myself to put it on the budget, and that we put money by the St. Martin Home to have a PR firm run our PR for us in the Netherlands. And I'm sure it will help us getting a better reputation in Europe. So when we do ask for European funding, they are not going to be too hesitant because the Dutch really feel we should get it. They'll say, no, those boys worth it. We'll give it to them. Do we have any working relations with sister cities in the Netherlands? I can recall we had one with Amsterdam back in 2012. But I don't know if we have any now. I know we have a working relationship with VE, but do we have anyone with a city itself that maybe we can get some help when needed? Madam Chair, I heard the Prime Minister state that 21 people resigned from the government. And the hiring, I'm not too concerned about, but I'm concerned about the resignations. are these people that were holding key positions? Are these people that were holding critical positions? And why are they resigning? Because there are a few things I've been hearing here and there when I speak to former civil servants, and they speak about unworkable and unpleasant working conditions. They speak about career growth, and they speak about money, that the money they're being paid is not comparable to the market, the private market, especially in the justice and YZ, the Justice Department. You notice that we can't hold a good lawyer. And it has to do with payment. Lawyers make a lot more money outside than they make inside. So we're not going to be able to hold them easy. I just saw that the department, the Ministry of Education is going to hire legal to come inside to do work instead of hiring legal, put them in YZ and borrow them to education. I question the minister. Why are you doing that? You're not building capacity. You're wasting money. But then again, I don't know. Madam Chair, the minister spoke about the monies of the airport and that the 20 million was given, the additional financing that they needed was going to be given through the trust fund, or has been given to the trust fund, and is to be repaid to the government. Now, Madam Chair, I'm very happy the Prime Minister gave that answer, because the Minister Thiat, he spin it different. He tell us the story in here a day or two ago that the airport said that they don't have absolutely nothing to do with government. And government doesn't have to stand responsible for any of their loans, because that's what the RFT said. And that's why I'm happy that we asked for all answers to be given to us in writing. Because then at least we can compare what is being said by all ministers. Because I am totally confused. The refinancing of the 2012 loan is on the books right now, is being done right now. Local entities are being denied the opportunity to partake in the 2012 refinancing loan of the bondholders. Is that true? Yes or no? It's a simple yes or no question. Because to my understanding, the local financiers are not welcome. They're going through the Aruba Investment Bank. One of the things, Madam Chair, through you to the Prime Minister, that is hurting this country immensely is these onderlinge regelingen, mutual agreements that we make, where ministers make agreements on behalf of this country. And the discussion we have had in here all too often is stop giving the government this carte blanche with LB Humps. Stop giving it to them. Anytime you want to change the law, come here. And don't put in the law that met verdere afhandeling, the ministers can do it or the government can do it. We do that to prevent a government being strangled for any little change in the law. They got to come to Parliament, and it's a long tracé. But it is exactly that that has caused that ministers go and sign off mutual agreements with another country. And in justice, we got 39 of them. 39 onderlinge regelingen, sorry, I keep mixing that up, between Holland and St. Maarten, and sometimes Curaçao and them. Now, one of these was also the Integrity Chamber. The Integrity Chamber was pushed down on us, and we sat to sign off on it. And the Minister of Justice signed off on it. And in the budget 2022, what do we get? 2.4 million that we know got to cough up for the Integrity Chamber. And nothing against the Integrity Chamber. But I do have a problem that Parliament is circumvented by these type of agreements that have a direct effect on the budget and also have a direct effect on the laws that are brought to this country that were maybe not intended to be brought to this country. So I would like to know if the government can find themselves with an agreement that Parliament will prepare, where anytime an onderlinge regeling has to be made, it must have the approval of the Parliament, not the government, the Parliament. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bonkamper. Next on the speakers list, we have MP Christophe Emmanuel. You have the floor.
Madam Chair, Lady, thank you very much. Madam Chair, I don't know if it's the Christmas season, but I have to admit that this is one of the few times, through you, Madam Chair, the Honorable Right Prime Minister came into Parliament, and I can agree with most of all of what she said in her answers, and that I understand exactly what is or what she have said, that I don't have to say I'm even more confused now with her answers. And I was jostling back and forth with one of her staff members there, letting her know that we as members of Parliament, Madam Chair Lady, we are only at the disposal of the media in terms of the information what we get based on press briefing. So when the Honorable Right Prime Minister was answering the questions based on the article, it's from the newspaper. And I can understand that the Honorable Prime Minister is saying it's not correct, but if it's not correct, then the Office of the Prime Minister need to ask clarifications from the Herald. Because the article didn't just, and I understand when the Prime Minister sort of clarified 100 million and where it went to and these sort of things, but the article say it also invested another 100 million, which means that's 200 million. So this is what we have to go to for our source of information, the newspaper. So when I ask the questions, I'm asking my questions based on this, because also in this, the Prime Minister has made mention, she was in attendance, with a delegation. So I would want to believe, Madam Chair Lady, that if it's one office that the people of St. Martin and members of Parliament can hold fast to get accurate information, is the Cabinet of the Prime Minister. Most, above all, we should rely on information that comes out of the Cabinet. So this is what we have to go to. For example, when I ask questions concerning salaries and wages, it's because, again, the Curacao Chronicle states, PISAS, frees civil servants' wages to curb budget spending. This is what the media is saying. It goes on to say, December 14, 2021, Williamstat, the PISAS government, like the Jacobs government of St. Martin, intends, meaning you have an intention to do it. This is what the article is saying. Intends to freeze civil servants' wages in order to keep budget expenditures under control, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, reported on this last month. It goes on to say, the IMF paid a virtual visit to Curacao and St. Martin. The concluding statement states how the budget deficits will be eliminated. Both governments indicate, not one, both governments, meaning Curacao and St. Martin, indicates that they intend to maintain wage freezes in the coming years to monitor government spending. In the case of Curacao, it is added that the government has prepared a package of measures to reduce healthcare costs and as much as possible. It goes on to say, in its concluding statement, the IMF also considers that the Caribbean Reform and Development Agency, COHO, according to the IMF, efforts so far have focused on diagnostics and planning, and implementation phase has yet to begin. Both islands have or had unfinished reform agendas when the coronavirus pandemic began. This change that circumstances the IMF said. And it goes on and goes on, but most of the article is relating to Curacao. But what I'm saying, Madam Chair Lady, so now I'm going to take this article and formulate questions based on this, because I haven't seen no retraction. I don't know if it's, but this is what we have to go to. I would want to believe it's a reliable source. And here in St. Martin, the only other reliable source we have to go to is the Daily Herald. So if the office or the ministers don't clarify these sort of things, then how are we to know that it's not the case and it's not true? Madam Chair Lady, let me go on. And my colleague, MP Boncampo, sort of ended to that part, so I'm going to start on that part too as well. He didn't read the letter, but I'm going to read the letter, Madam Chair Lady. And this is the letter from the airport, okay? Madam Chair, it states, and it's a reason why, excuse me? I'm coming to it. It's a reason why, Madam Chair, I believe the Prime Minister would like to say something.
Prime Minister?
It's
Can
the
you repeat?
letter subject announcement of the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders to dismiss Mikey Hyman. Oh, it's circulating all around the place here. Yeah. But you see, it's not to be malicious. It's a reason why I intend to read this article based on what my colleague MP Boncampo made mention and based on the answers from the Minister of Health. When I asked him the question, Madam Chair Lady, about the suspended psychiatric doctor, not suspended, yes, suspended, and is a suspect. He's a suspect. In any other country in the world, you can't practice as a medical doctor. He's suspended and is a suspect. And the Honorable Right Minister of Health said he intends, and yes, he's going to renew his contract. That's the reason why I am bringing this up. So we asked the Honorable Minister then the question, and I asked it to him specifically, is it a policy of the government, or is it the policy or the intention of only the Ministry of VSA? Because today, I was going to bring up all of this information concerning the harbor with the former CEO. Because here we have, and it goes on to state, date 10 December 2021, our reference, subject, announcement of the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders. Dear Mr. Hyman, the undersigned Princess Juliana International Airport, NV, also sole shareholder of Princess Juliana International Airport, the company, has requested a management board of the company to convene an extraordinary general meeting of shareholders of the company to be held at the office of the company Skyport Building, Simpson Bay Road, number 40, on the 23rd of December, 2021, at 10 a.m. The management board of the company has convened this emergency meeting, and you may be accompanied by legal counsel during this meeting. It goes on to say, Your proposed dismissal as director of the company is on the agenda of the extraordinary general shareholders meeting. Who's a shareholder of the airport, Madam Chair? It goes on to say, the supervisory board of directors of the company has recommended to the undersigned to dismiss you as managing director of the company. The reasons for the supervisory board of directors' recommendation is your failure to inform the appropriate bodies of the company of your absence on the 22nd October 2021 and the following days, and that you have not provided any meaningful information inter alia, the suspicion and allegations leading up to your arrest. Now listen to this, Madam Chair. So the good gentleman did not provide the information where he was on the 22nd of October. To your arrest on the 22nd of October 2021 and the conditions of your release after 8 days of detention. But Madam Chair, how is he to do that when he's incarcerated for the 8 days? For the 8 days. So you want to dismiss him because he did not provide no reason why he missed those days. But didn't you read the paper? Wasn't you aware that he was arrested? Wasn't you aware that he was arrested? So how are you going to dismiss the gentleman for the time he was arrested? For those 8 days. It goes on to say, especially as the background of your arrest has been reported to relate to fraud related to cleanup and repair works carried out at Princess Juliana International Airport after Hurricane Irma, and therefore to be directly linked to your position as director. The supervisory board is of the view that your failure to provide the supervisory board with such information is a gross neglect of your duties and violation of your service agreement with the company, constituting urgent reasons for your dismissal. It goes on to say, the undersigned has reviewed and analyzed the supervisory board recommendation and believe an emergency extraordinary meeting with your dismissal as managing director of the company as an agenda item is appropriate, and we have requested the management board of the company to convene an emergency extraordinary meeting, and at this meeting to be held on December 23rd, 2021, you will be given the opportunity to present your views regarding the proposed dismissal, after which the general meeting of the shareholders of the company will vote on the proposed dismissal. Should you not attend the meeting, the general meeting shareholders will vote on the recommendation without taking your views into account. We trust to have informed you sufficiently herewith, sincerely, Ms. Lysandra Havington Ellis. Now, Madam Chair, I have a serious issue with that. I have a very serious issue with it. Because, Madam Chair, it can't be that one way it is good for it to be done this way with the same government-owned company. Same government-owned company. And the Honorable Minister of Health came in here with someone who's suspended and is suspect and renewed a decree that has expired. The minister said it. Yes, he said it. And in this case, the Vatican could do whatever they want. Just to use a word of MP Boncampa. They can do whatever they want, including the shareholders, which I believe is government. So yes, I also stand with the proposed idea from my colleague that the government have to stop this and give the gentleman a fair due opportunity. Fair due opportunity, Madam Chair Lady. And keeping on the airport, Madam Chair, through you to the Honorable Prime Minister, it has been brought to my attention that the Towers has been requesting, I also pose this question to the Minister of TIAT. The Towers has been requesting, Honorable Chair, to the Prime Minister, a meeting with the government concerning their pension over and over, and it's being ignored. I'm just saying, I'm just using the words. It's being ignored. They have requested a meeting, a gathering with the government, and it's being ignored. And Madam Chair, for clarification, the Honorable Prime Minister made mention that any government-owned company that owes before, and I stand to be corrected, Madam Chair, when the Honorable Prime Minister made mention when we asked the question, what's the difference between GEBE paying out their full bonuses and TELEM deciding to take back money, the Honorable Prime Minister made mention, and she said that any monies that is owed before 2020 should be paid. But I stand to be corrected on what the Honorable Prime Minister said, so I'm asking clarifications on that. The reason why I'm asking that question is because of this letter again from the airport that came out saying, subject, Christmas message 2021. Dear all, looking back, we can conclude that 2021 was a year with many uncertainties for the company. Nevertheless, we were determined to get through this challenging period together by focusing on cost-cutting, saving measures, minimal spending, attracting airlines back to our airport, improving our passenger experience, keeping all staff employed, reducing the employee compensation package by 12.5%. And last but not least, staying on track with the rebuilding of the airport of the future. PJIAF or PJIAE employees have shown, not PJIAF, PJIAE employees have shown resilience, dedication, and hope for a better future. The letter goes on to say, throughout 2021, PJIAE has strived for open and transparent communication. We have kept you regularly informed on the financial situation of the company and have maintained our stance that we have the company's and employees' best interests and welfare at heart. We all had to make sacrifices to be able to get through the economic constraints together. And we can proudly say that the air traffic has picked up in the fourth quarter of 2021. Moreover, the prognosis for Q1 2022 is looking brighter. We are pleased to announce that PJIAE is slightly performing above predictions and is able to make a monetary gesture, token of appreciation, by giving an unconditional one-time gratification of 1,000 Antillean gross guilders to all PJIE employees. This one-time gratification is not part of any outstanding payments owed to employees and is within the limitations of the 12.5% reduction of PJIE employee compensation package. Employees who have worked less than 1 year for PJIAE will receive a prorated payment. On behalf of the management board of PJIAE, we wish you and your family a happy, healthy, and safe Christmas season, and may the new year bring you wonderful opportunities, kindness, and good health. Happy holidays, sincerely, PJIAE NV, Brian Mingo, Chief Executive Officer. Now, Madam Chair, the monies that the employees of PJIAE has been asking for, rooting for, striking for, is before 2020 and after Hurricane Irma, 2017, when the airport asked them to hold on a bit, take a little cut, and we're going to get back to paying you. That's the monies that they're asking for before 2020. That's why I asked for clarifications on what the Prime Minister made mention concerning what should be paid before the laws was implemented. Because this here, if you start to calculate the 12.5% and the 1,000 guilders, the airport is out of order, Madam Chair. They're out of order. But again, like my colleague and people on campus, I'm going to leave the numbers of the budget and the government-owned companies for the public meeting. Because it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, I also want to, because I had to jot this down quickly, Madam Chair Lady, on when the Prime Minister made mention about I believe it was tsunamis, something relating to tsunamis, and how are we going to be alerted and stuff. If that is the case, and we will be getting this information to alert us about a tsunami and all those sort of things, all of that is fine and well. But then how would the government of St. Martin alert the general public? Because the horns doesn't work anymore. They have been destroyed or knocked down since Hurricane Irma and have not been replaced. So then the question to the Honorable Prime Minister, Madam Chair, how will the general public be informed of any sort of natural disaster coming to St. Martin? And to make mention, like what the Prime Minister said, we don't have a quorum. Like the Prime Minister make mention for a tsunami. So the question would be, how will we be alerted, the general public, seeing the horns doesn't work? And are there plans to have them placed back or installed? And what sort of budget would this be? Because it can't be that one way we are getting information from outside that a tsunami is approaching. Madam Chair, lady, it's not going to take 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 days for them to go and rush and put up horns to inform the general public. How are we going to know that there's a natural disaster at that magnitude coming to St. Martin? Thank you, Madam Chair. I also have a few other questions. For the Prime Minister. Let me get it together. Madam Chair, lady, I wanted to get into this discussion with the Prime Minister concerning the VDSM. Is there a head vacancy for the VDSM? Madam Chair, lady. How long has this vacancy been in place? Who are the candidates? What has been his or her role on filling this vacancy? Madam Chair, lady, to the Honorable Prime Minister, does she consider this vacancy important? Has there been a negotiation process in the capital budget? Madam Chair, lady, my colleague MP Boncampo made mention to it. So I'm going to hold the VDSM questions because I don't want to lose this one as I go down and not be able to come back to it. Is it confirmed that PJIAE is seeking a loan from an Aruba investment bank and not the agencies in St. Martin? The question to that would be why, and do they have permission or do they need permission from the shareholder or the government of St. Martin to do such? Madam Chair, let me run down the questions and the Prime Minister can answer them as they fall because some would overlap with each other. What is the role of the local pension fund in the airport financing? PM indicated that the liquidity support from government is to support paying the bondholders. Is she stating that emphatically? Is the Prime Minister therefore saying that the bondholders are not paid from the airport departure fees that are in a locked box for their payments? If that is the case, why are the workers not getting their COLA as agreed upon by the unions? It was reported that flights have increased, therefore departure and other fees have also increased. Can the Honorable Prime Minister please shed some clarity because this is becoming more and more confusing? And Madam Chair, I would really like a little bit more concrete information and answers concerning the liquidity support to pays that will pay the bondholders. Liquidity support to pay the bondholders. Madam Chair, lady. And Madam Chair, coming back to the questions of the VDSM, when will this critical vacancy, or when will this vacancy be filled? Who is acting in this position and for how long? And did the person apply for the position? What is the position in government comparable to? How critical is that position within the organization? How many persons have been screened since the position became vacant? What were the conditions of service for the first head of the VDSM, and have they changed? If so, when did they change and in what areas? Madam Chair, moving on with different questions. Who are the members of the Trust Fund Steering Committee? And who's representing St. Martin on this committee? How long is the contract, and how long has he or she served on the committee? And has this person contract been renewed? Madam Chair Lady, let me say it here. I don't recognize the Integrity Chamber. And I've said it before. Simply based on how the Integrity Chamber exists here in St. Martin. But now, Madam Chair Lady, Madam Chair, I am troubled. I am troubled. A handful of employees at the Integrity Chamber. But in the budget, Madam Chair, you have a staggering figure of 2.4 million guilders for the Integrity Chamber. Madam Chair, we should scrap that whole Integrity Chamber, take all of that money and pay the justice workers, pay the police officers. They're doing much more work, much more investigation, much more everything than anything that the Integrity Chamber is doing. 2.4 million guilders for an institution that was shoved down our throats. That a rogue minister went and signed off for whatever reasons. And now we have to pay for it from our budget. But if it's so that the Dutch government forced it down our throats, why don't they continue to pay for it, Madam Chair? Why don't they continue to pay for it? Madam Chair Lady, the monies for the justice workers that they're asking for is also money that are due to them before 2020. That we had individuals come in here and tell us, sell UTS, sell this, sell that, and the justice workers will be paid off for the 10, 12 years. And we all agree to do that. But they still can't get the rest of their money. And I'm not seeing it in the budget. We push it down until the end of 2022 or 2020 something based on the last budget. Madam Chair. But 2.4 million guilders. What exactly? No, this is a question to the Honorable Prime Minister. Can we get a detailed, intricate, line by line, itemized number? The intentions or the intent of the Integrity Chamber works to be done for 2.4 million guilders. The light bill, the water bill, the building, new chairs, every pencil, pen, everything, because, Madam Chair, 2.4 million guilders? So I would like to know, are they renting cars? What's the license plate? Who maintain the cars? What are they spending this money on, Madam Chair Lady? What are they spending this money on? What are their plans to spend this money on? What investigations are they looking at? Not just to come and tell Parliament we can't get a gift. I mean, I could say that to myself. That can cost $10. Not just to say you can't get a gift. No, we could make fun and chuckle and laugh at it. 2.4 million guilders for the integrity chamber to do absolutely nothing. But we can't get the roof on Martin Luther King School. Justice workers can't get the rest of their money. Madam Chair Lady. And Madam Chair, you know, I think the Prime Minister dealt with that answer correctly, but specifically I want to ask the Honorable Prime Minister. Because it seems as if members of Parliament or a specific member of Parliament think that they're a minister. Because they have been questioning P&O policies over and over and trying to blame on P&O as if P&O don't have a boss. So I want to ask this question directly to the Honorable Prime Minister. Has the Department of Personnel changed the manner in which laws and policies are being applied since personnel laws and policies has been established? And the reason why I'm saying that, because, Madam Chair, comments have been made that give the impression that this department is acting independently. But then, Madam Chair, I'm sitting here and I'm seeing plantain. How could they be acting independently and their bosses are sitting here? They don't make the rules. They don't make the policies. And yes, you could say they are. But at the end of it, they have a boss. And if the minister wants to deviate from any rule, any policy, he can do that. That's their priority. That's their prerogative, Madam Chair. But you're not pointing your finger there, but you're pointing it at the civil servant. Now, I agree. Now, some civil servants are really think that they're the ministers. But I keep hearing this all the time. Oh, you can't get an increment. You can't get the bonus. Oh, you got to stay in this scale. Oh, you can't get that. Oh, you know why? Because P&O said this. No, it ain't because P&O said this. It's because you sat down and you vote on cuts. That's what it is. They can't do that. They can't put no pay raise. They can't give no increment. They can't give no bonus. They can't do all those things because you voted for those cuts. Not P&O. You voted for those cuts. That's why they can't get it. Madam Chair. So when you're trying to appoint a friend or a cousin or a brother or somebody somewhere, and it can't happen, don't trade there. Let them know the truth. Let them know the truth, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair, I want to get into a little bit more details concerning personnel issues. But you see, again, I'm trying to be nice and honor some things that my colleagues from PFP don't like, which is calling names. But what I will request, one of these times after the break or whatever, that we have a closed door meeting so we can discuss this straightforward with the Honorable Prime Minister, because there's too many names to call of civil servants and I don't want to do it there. But a lot of obstruction is going on, Madam Chair. A lot. And you know what happens, and speaking from experience as being a minister, sometimes you don't even know. And you walk in the street or you put up in the shop and this person frowning and vexed with you and don't even know. You don't even know. Because this hasn't reached your desk or this hasn't been told to you. So there are some things that we need to really tackle. But like I said, Madam Chair, I'm going to leave these questions here for now. And I want to get into the numbers, like my colleague mentioned, the numbers. Because again, you know, I had to defend the Minister of Education on a radio program as why he's making 600 and something thousand. But then I had to say, no, it's not him. The establishment that he used to represent always provides the food and everything else and the bread and everything else to the prison. That's why you're seeing that 600 and something thousand on the budget. But when you become a minister, you have to disassociate your name from all the businesses that you're part of. But there's a lot of, for example, the Ministry of Justice and the amount of money they're spending on renting cars. But you see, Madam Chair, that's the technical numbers part of the budget that I'm going to leave for the public meeting. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. I see that MP Emmanuel is the last speaker. No? Okay, MP, you did not sign in, but MP Bryson, you have, oh, you just did? Okay, MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lady, good afternoon to you, to my colleague members of Parliament, to the Prime Minister, the support staff, and those viewing this meeting by various forms of media. Madam Chair, I remember MP Marlin once told me a student is sometimes only as good as the teacher. And today I think I failed a little bit as a teacher, as somebody that has been proclaimed as someone that taught research. I might have failed. Because in researching things, I for sure would never ask or teach someone to do research based on what is said in newspapers. A newspaper is what you call an indication in research. So a newspaper can be similar to a Facebook post. You get an indication of something there. You get an indication in a newspaper. You get an indication by someone telling you something. Then what you do, the next step, is your mind starts to work and you form what is called a hypothesis. A hypothesis is, based on what I'm hearing from these indications, I believe there's a possibility this may be the case. But Madam Chair, that's not where it stops. That's not, in my opinion, as a good researcher, where you take something from a newspaper and then you throw it on the floor of Parliament just based on that, unless you can't do the next step, which is actual further research. Madam Chair, if a newspaper is quoting, clearly saying, based on the IMF report, based on the IMF report, based on the IMF report, would it not behoove someone to go in the IMF report? Well, Madam Chair, I did. And when you look at the IMF, and this is based on the questions to the Prime Minister about what was spent, what wasn't spent, the indicators in the future, Madam Chair, I just want to say I'm happy that you had the Secretariat send that report, IS 368, the summarized version, and the full version of the IMF report is available on the IMF website since November the 30th, so at least 2 weeks ago. So anyone preparing for this meeting could have easily gone, do their research, and see the details that is being quoted from the newspaper. So, Madam Chair, I hope maybe I expand the lesson today, because when I look at that report, I understand the Herald is there to sell headlines. They can take certain aspects and put what they want out there. They do it all the time. Some of us don't like it. We don't think it's correct. But they're not PBS like in the States. It's a public broadcasted and publicly sponsored thing. They're there to put things on the front page of the newspaper. And sometimes MPs, just like getting caught with fake accounts, we can get caught with fake news. What I do agree with, Madam Chair Lady, is that what plans does the Department of Communication have to structurally address whenever things go into the newspaper, that there's a response? And also, as was suggested, not just in locally, but there's also in the Netherlands. Whenever something comes out in the Netherlands, there needs to be also a strategy for responding to things. I remember during the pandemic, DCOM was doing an excellent job with that, where you would get these social media briefs, where something would come out on social media, you immediately can identify it's obviously fake. There's a video of something happening. It turns out it's something happening in another country. Then a social media brief comes out from the Ministry of DCOM saying, hey, this is not St. Martin. Here are the facts of the matter. Can the Prime Minister maybe elucidate on how that strategy will be used as well? And to the Minister of Finance, from the IMF report, which, by the way, the IMF also met with Parliament, with the Committee of Finance, where we have opportunities to weigh in and in aspects of the concluding statement. So, Madam Chair, that's one point I want to bring up to the Prime Minister. Also, the other point, how many, I know the answer was there, and unfortunately, I was in a meeting with the Secretary General at the time, a work-related meeting, so I didn't get to hear the answer, but if you could just repeat how many critical vacancies are open, just so I can get that number. I don't need the elucidation, just the actual number. If I can get that one more time, please, Chair Lady. And Chair, I went back in my notes to see what exactly I posed with regards to P&O. And a lot of what I'm discussing here is the process. The Prime Minister, I think correctly and very much appreciated, outlined an entire process of, I said correctly, right? I didn't say incorrectly. I said the Prime Minister had definitely, and I welcome that, an entire process of, okay, the application is received, the interview, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Madam Chair, what I would like to know, is it that the Prime Minister throughout that process gets like a daily report on everything that is happening there throughout the process? I would assume that's a bit of a rhetorical question. No. There is a very large part of this process that is handled by, not the Prime Minister, but the civil service. So my question is also in that regard, the oversight aspect, and to see that when the process is ongoing, that there's still opportunities to really clearly define what the parameters are for the civil service, particularly within the organization department on the general affairs is doing. Because, Madam Chair, I can hear in one statement, don't blame P&O, blame yourself, and then 10 seconds later hear from an MP, we need closed-door meeting to discuss obstruction by civil servants. Which one is it? So, Madam Chair, I think, and also another interesting quote to be said here, a member of Parliament will say, sometimes you don't even know, this hasn't reached your desk, this hasn't been told to you. So, Madam Chair, I don't want to downplay the hiring issues that we have. I will continue to pose the questions and support the Prime Minister in shoring up the ability to make more efficient, especially for critical vacancies. I know that we're in a difficult time, but I repeat once again, the same people that we want to get us out of this crisis, the expertise is needed. The Prime Minister explained the difficulty that we have with the Legal Affairs Department and what is being done, but the acknowledgement that there are critical functions within government to be filled is clear. But that can only be done if it's done as efficiently as possible, and that ministers, as well as the Prime Minister, gets the support from the civil service to move that process through. And policies and laws are one thing, but the execution of it still lies within the civil service. And the Prime Minister is responsible, indeed, to look over on the execution, how policies are interpreted, how the department heads, the Secretary General and such, are making use of such policies, because a very good example of that policy is the aanloopschaal. When you read the policy, you can very clearly say that policy is designed for someone that is of, let's say, a certain experience, and you're supposed to put them there at a very limited time, 1 year, but the reality is we have people in aanloopschaal for many years. That's a fact. So those things do need to be improved upon, and I do look forward more so in the public meeting to debating possible solutions to addressing this issue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. I see that MP Christophe Emmanuel would like to have the floor.
Yes, Madam Chair. I thank you very much, Madam Chair. I mean, I can go on right now and start on this discussion concerning what is going on in the cabinet, and is related more towards the bosses and the ministers. I can have that discussion right now. But let me say something to you, Madam Chair, right? Here, again, is how I just do my research. This is from the newspaper, and it states, utterly gives clarification on state of mental health foundation. Look at it here, and I have everything blue, circled, squared off and everything. This is the newspaper that the minister, the individual that has the most accurate information on health, mental health in this country, he puts it out in the newspaper. The range individual is telling us, go on our website and dig more. Madam Chair, this young fella here, me, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do none of those sort of things. So my faculties are in order. Madam Chair, they are in order. Okay? I did not mention nothing about an IMF report. I said the IMF stated in the meeting that they had with both governments, the Jacobs government and the PISA's government, in the virtual meeting. That's what they stated. I don't have to go on no IMF website to find nothing. They state in their virtual discussion with both governments on the freeze of wages and those sort of things. Madam Chair. Okay? Ain't no indication or nothing with a newspaper. It is clear. And again, if the information is not accurate, then the various cabinet or ministry, they have their due diligence to do and say, no, listen, Harold, this is not accurate. This is not correct. And the only other recourse we have is the press briefing. For example, Madam Chair, that's why I said I appreciate the information that the Prime Minister put out concerning the pageant. But when the Minister of Theatre was here, what did he say? What did he tell us? A joint press release will be done between both sides. And you know what I was doing? I was waiting for that press release at our press meeting. And then come Wednesday, there was none because they was preparing for budget. We had no budget yesterday. So where must I go to get the information? Where should one go to get information? Where? Madam Chair, I love this job. If it's a back and forth you want, I can do that back and forth too very well. I can do it. But Madam Chair, my information is sort of a, how should I say? Madam Chair, when we was growing up, there was always this individual who would be with you on the block and always making all the jokes. Always making all the jokes. But the moment you make a joke, they vex. They vex because you make the joke with them. All right? And it goes back, way, way back, Madam Chair, when it was made mention, oh, this tape was clearly put together and they should release the whole tape. Madam Chair, they don't want that. They don't want that. Know what you're doing. This is a budget debate. This is a budget debate. I am quoting from the information that I'm getting from the media outlets that's available and afforded to me. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. I'd like to thank the members of Parliament for all the questions that they posed today. And Prime Minister, I don't know if you would like to, MPs, please, order. I would like to maybe turn the floor over to the Prime Minister for any closing remarks before she takes the MPs. Order. Madam Prime Minister, you have the floor for any closing remarks you may have. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of Parliament. I had hoped in being as thorough as I was that I wouldn't have as many questions, but I'm not able to respond right away to all of the questions. I get the concerns, and I'll be able to answer as soon as I can. I know we have two other ministers still have to come, so hopefully before the end of the day, we can return to respond to the questions that have been, the clarifications and the questions that have been posed. What I would like to say, though, about the situation with the COO at the airport, it is really at the beginning stages. As representatives of the shareholder, we haven't had a shareholders meeting with the holding, but we have had discussions with them in terms of the process. The interest is to find out what is going on. The concern is that they have not heard anything at all since the release of Mr. Hyman, and it is just to get some information. So we are, as a holding, as shareholder, of course, would like to see everybody get their due diligence. But as an employer, I can understand that they would like to understand what is taking place since it is allegations related to the job. And so we will, that is as far as it is right now. We are in contact with the holding company, and we will be continuing to ensure that the vision of the shareholder remains in the forefront.
Thank you, Madam Prime Minister, for your presence here today. Thank you to your support staff. I would like to adjourn the meeting until 3 p.m. to allow the members of Parliament to have a lunch break. And the next minister that is that will be here with us at 3 p.m. is the Minister of no, not Minister of Finance, Minister of Roaming, Minister Duran. Let us adjourn until 3 p.m. and have a great lunch. And wherever you're going on the road, if you are, be safe. Meeting adjourned until 3 p.m.